Chapter 1352. Lin Yuan let out a cold snort. As the city lord of Sky City, how could he not know that Sky City had hired a fake army? It seemed like the Miao family's beast creation garden was planning to use his identity to cause trouble. That would not do. It seemed like it was time to give the Miao family a warning. When Miao Zhuo heard Lin Yuan's cold snort, his straight back immediately broke out in a fine sweat, drenching the silk undershirt on his 100-beast new seedling attire. Before Miao Zhuo could figure out what he had said that had angered Lin Yuan, Miao Zhuo only heard Lin Yuan's cold voice over the phone. Your Miao Zhuo beast creation garden is quite bold. You actually want to use my identity to cause trouble. Do you think you can do whatever you want to me, or do you think the Radiant Moon Palace will let you do whatever you want? I originally wanted to help your Miao family's beast creation garden with a small favor, but I didn't expect your beast creation garden to be so ambitious. If it is so easy to climb to the top by climbing up a high branch, Radiance's faction should stop operating and struggling. Miao Zhuo listened to Lin Yuan's words with trepidation while looking at his grandfather's impatient eyes. He only felt that he was in a dilemma. Just as Miao Zhuo was thinking if he should turn on the hands-free mode and let Miao Zhinshan listen, he heard Lin Yuan say, "I can step in. It's not impossible for me to do it, but show me the sincerity of the Miao family. Don't think about using my identity to cause trouble. Otherwise, Sky City won't have to settle the score with your beast creation garden. I'll be the first to not let your beast creation garden off." After saying that, Lin Yuan hung up the phone. Lu Jie and the mother of Bloodbath stood beside Lin Yuan and listened carefully to every word he said on the phone. After Lin Yuan hung up the phone, Lu Jie said with a smile, "Lin Yuan, the fish has taken the bait?" Lin Yuan nodded. The fish had indeed taken the bait. He had given Miao Zhuo a warning just now and also given the Miao family hope. The Miao family's beast creation garden was a huge faction, so they should be weighing what to do. The Miao family's beast creation garden should be weighing what to do. Miao Zhinshan had been waiting for Miao Zhuo's results. After hanging up the phone, Miao Zhuo felt that he could not stand steadily because he was too nervous and afraid. At this point, success or failure was no longer up to him. Miao Zhuo took a deep breath and recounted his conversation with Lin Yuan to Miao Zhinshan in detail. Let Miao Zhinshan, the head of the Miao family, decide what to do. Miao Zhinshan was originally very impatient, but when he heard the conversation between Miao Zhuo and Lin Yuan, Miao Zhinshan was also so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. Indeed, he had been dreaming too much. He wanted to use Lin Yuan's identity to gain power. Even if Lin Yuan did not pursue the matter, would the Radiant Moon Palace not pursue the matter? Rather than facing the Moon Empress' thunderous methods, it was better to let Miao Zhuo die in the hands of Sky City. Miao Zhinshan immediately thought to himself. The negative public opinion on StarWeb in the past few days had messed up his mind and actually made him have designs on Lin Yuan's identity. Miao Zhinshan did not dare to panic. After listening to Miao Zhuo's retelling of his conversation with Lin Yuan was obviously angry. It would take some time to calm down. Miao Zhinshan planned to wait for 2 days before personally calling Lin Yuan. As for the Miao clan's sincerity, what right did the Miao clan, who had lost their power, have to bargain? Give Lin Yuan everything he wanted. Only by being obedient would they be able to hug Lin Yuan's thigh. When he returned to the mansion, he found that Wen Yu was not there. He immediately dialed Wen Yu's number and found out that Mystic Moon had called her to the Radiant Moon Palace. Upon hearing that Lin Yuan had returned to the mansion, Wen Yu said softly, "Young master, I just arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace this morning. Master said that she would help me increase my strength over the next few days. When I'm done improving my strength, I'll return to the manor directly." Recently, the public opinion on StarWeb has been fermenting very quickly. In order to expand the public opinion, I specially asked Tianningning to contact some StarWeb reporters. Pay these StarWeb reporters to report on the blood oath battle between the Miao family's beast creation garden and the Blissful Sea clan. These StarWeb reporters' reports should be placed on the various StarWeb sections. It should allow more passers-by to pay attention to this matter. Among these StarWeb reporters, there are a few famous reporters that Tianningning has contacted. The price of a famous reporter is 20,000 radiance dollars per article. I've spent over 500,000 radiance dollars in total. After saying that, Wen Yu paused for a moment before continuing. Young master, throughout the whole process, I didn't mention how these star web reporters would report, nor did I mention which faction we are. I only asked these star web reporters to write truthfully. Many reporters have accurately dug out the shadow of Sky City behind this blood oath extreme battle. Upon hearing Wen Yu's words, Lin Yuan could not help but slap his thigh. Why didn't I think of using the star web reporters to expand the public opinion? Sky City had helped the Blissful Sea clan win the blood oath battle. It was extremely secretive, and the veteran factions and top factions could see something. However, these veteran factions and top factions were not necessarily willing to leak out the information they had. It was because of these star web reporters digging that Sky City had surfaced in front of the star web netizens so quickly. Lin Yuan felt that it was worth it even if he spent 50 million radiance dollars to find these reporters, let alone 500,000 radiance dollars. The enhancement of the power of faith was equivalent to enhancing a kind of power that Lin Yuan grasped. Lin Yuan was willing to spend more on the enhancement of power. Moreover, Wen Yu had said that she did not reveal her identity when she had made an appointment with the star web reporters, so that these star web reporters would not be too biased toward the financial backer. Every report pursued objectivity and fairness to attract the attention of people with high IQs. Wen Yu's approach was simply amazing. Before Lin Yuan could praise Wen Yu, Mystic Moon's voice came from the other end of the phone. Apparently, Mystic Moon had answered Wen Yu's call. Your Highness, I was thinking of calling you, but it just so happened that when you called you, so I informed Your Highness. The Moon Empress is in seclusion, and I just came out. The Moon Empress Purple Moon was released from the Crescent Moon Sai card. Did Your Highness encounter any trouble? Lin Yuan did not hide anything and told Mystic Moon everything that had happened on the island outside Raging Wave City. Although Lin Yuan was independent, he could not hide such things from his master, the Moon Empress. And he would definitely tell his master, His Majesty, when he returned. The Mermaid Ray had the idea of killing His Majesty's disciple in the Radiance's sea region, which was equivalent to trampling on the Radiance's dignity and publicly tearing up the Radiant Sea Treaty. For a federation, dignity was priceless, and the defense of dignity should set off a reign of terror. Lin Yuan would bear the grudge between himself and the Imperial Mermaid Ray. As a Radiance person, Lin Yuan should go all out for the grudge between the Radiance and the sea species. Moreover, Lin Yuan was one of the protagonists of this incident. Chapter 1353. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Mystic Moon's eyes sank. Mystic Moon took a glance at the Moon Empress seclusion chamber and started to weigh the pros and cons. Under normal circumstances, even if the Moon Empress was in seclusion, he would inform her immediately. However, this seclusion was too important to the Moon Empress. The Moon Empress, whose lifespan had been replenished, was currently using this seclusion to wash away the hidden injuries that she had suppressed in order to break through. After this seclusion, the Moon Empress would be completely gone, and her strength would be restored to its peak. If he were to disturb the Moon Empress at such a time, he might cause her to suffer from a backlash due to being distracted. Xianxia clenched her fist, and her silver hair instantly shone with a dazzling silver luster. Every strand of his silver hair seemed to have transformed into a crystalline horn. Xianxu's strength had finally reached that level. Now that Xianxu's strength had reached this level, she was already qualified to take the test to become an overlord. Once she passed the test of the 13 majesties of the Radiant Sect, she would become the 14th majesty of the Radiant Sect. However, according to Hui Yao's rules, the relationship between the two majesties could not be that of subordinates. Compared to becoming the 14th Lord of the Radiant Sect, Mystic Moon wanted to be the Moon Empress Moon Envoy more. In fact, when one's strength reached Xianxu's level, even if Xianxu was not Her Majesty, he still had the right to convene a court meeting. Since the Moon Empress had yet to come out of seclusion, Mystic Moon should take responsibility for Lin Yuan's matter. Moreover, this battle involved experts at the peak of Immortal realm. It wasn't a small matter anymore. Your Highness, leave the matters regarding the sea race to me. When the Moon Empress comes out of seclusion, I will inform the Moon Empress about this matter. Upon hearing Mystic Moon's words, Lin Yuan nodded. Uncle Xian, I'll have to trouble you. When you need me, just let me know. After saying that, he hung up the phone. Mystic Moon didn't immediately send a message to the other 13 highnesses to convene the Nix assembly. This matter involved Ji Changding's disciple and he and Night Leaning Moon's disciple Lu Jia. Ji Changding, that old bastard, Mystic Moon felt disgusted just thinking about him. Ever since she opened her eyes, Xian Yu had never seen such a good bootlicker. Asking Mystic Moon to contact Ji Changding was no different from forcing her to eat canned herring. As for Night Leaning Moon, the grudge between her and Xian Yu was even greater. Decades ago, the two of them had disliked each other, but when they thought of Lin Yuan and Lu Jia's relationship, they could not help it. Xian Yu decided to inform Night Leaning Moon first before convening the royal court's meeting. Thinking of this, Xian Yu immediately dialed the number that she had saved but had never called before. Xian Yu wanted to ask for Night Leaning Moon's opinion on the matter regarding the Sea Tribe, but she didn't know that Night Leaning Moon, who was in the palace, had already gone crazy. Night Leaning Moon, who was in the Radiance Imperial Court, could not suppress her sorrow and killing intent, causing the entire Radiance Imperial Court to be covered in a layer of chill. The old man sat on the recliner and said to Night Leaning Moon with a sorrowful gaze, "Qingyue, only Cicada Cry and I knew about Sayu back then. Not even Iron Prison knew about it. The Moon Empress doesn't wish for us to tell others, and we don't dare to let you know either." Night Leaning Moon's body couldn't help but tremble when she heard the old man's words. Then she started to laugh bitterly. Miserable laughter rang out from within the royal court, adding a touch of eeriness to the cold atmosphere that was originally tainted by the royal court. "It's fine if Shiyu hid this from me. You know what Shiyu means to me, but you also hid it from me. Shiyu's lifespan is less than 3 years. Less than 3 years?" Night Leaning Moon's voice was so hoarse that she was choking with sobs. Night Leaning Moon couldn't imagine how a stubborn and strong-willed person who stood at the peak of the world could see the end of her life with just a glance. How powerless would it be to be unable to turn back? Although Night Leaning Moon had a guess before coming, it was just a guess after all. Now that the truth was in front of her, Night Leaning Moon couldn't accept or believe it. Cicada Cry's heart sank when he saw Night Leaning Moon's expression. Night Leaning Moon and Cicada Cry were not Radiance envoys of the same generation. However, during the Radiance envoy selection back then, Cicada Cry had specially guided Night Leaning Moon as an assessment judge. At that time, Cicada Cry knew that Night Leaning Moon was a person with a strong sense of justice and was very fair. These were the qualities that Cicada Cry saw in Night Leaning Moon. However, as Night Leaning Moon progressed from a Radiance envoy to a Holiness, the Spirit Guards had to carry out missions in 32 major cities all year round. They had to fight against dimensional rifts and sudden dangerous incidents with the city guards. As a result, Cicada Cry and Night Leaning Moon became the two people who had the deepest relationship among all the Holiness. After decades of understanding, Cicada Cry knew that behind Night Leaning Moon's sense of justice and fairness was a deep obsession. This obsession came from the Moon Empress. Everyone had two sides, and the Holiness was no exception. Cicada Cry found it hard to imagine what kind of madness would erupt behind Night Leaning Moon's extreme sense of justice and fairness when the obsession in her heart was broken. Thinking of this, Cicada Cry said, "Leaning Moon, for the Moon Empress lifespan, she even took out the geocentric jade milk. I personally sent it to the Moon Empress. The Moon Empress is trying to ascend to her life providence. Using the geocentric jade milk to increase her lifespan by 1 year, the full Moon Empress might have a chance." Night Leaning Moon's eyes narrowed. Her eyes were like a starry sky that was engulfed by darkness. Suddenly, a trace of light broke through. However, Night Leaning Moon didn't completely believe Cicada Cry's words. After Cicada Cry finished speaking, Night Leaning Moon waved her hand without saying a word. A black crystal suddenly appeared in Night Leaning Moon's hand. After Night Leaning Moon took out the black crystal, the entire Radiance Royal Court was immediately covered in a pitch-black night. In the dark night, there seemed to be several sinister masks hidden. Cicada Cry sighed. He knew he couldn't fool Night Leaning Moon. Night-leaning moon had summoned the sacred source life form, dark sky prajna, because she wanted him to summon the sacred source life form, intent-dispelling wind. Once he summoned the intent-dispelling wind, he would be exposed. In the radiant moon palace, he had given the intent-dispelling wind to the moon empress. Night-leaning moon could tell at a glance. Now that night-leaning moon's attitude was so obvious, he had no choice but to summon the sacred source life form, intent-dispelling wind. Cicada Cry took a deep breath, and a few gusts of cool wind surged around him. The cool wind blew through the dark night, making it less dark. It was as if the cool wind had appeared and dispersed the dark night. However, the moment the cool wind appeared, the dense murderous intent in the night was plated with deeper despair. In the darkness, night-leaning moon waved her hand, and the black crystal disappeared. At that moment, night-leaning moon's face was pale and expressionless. Despair and grief faded from her eyes, and she looked like a walking corpse. Cicada Cry had never seen night-leaning moon like this. After night-leaning moon asked her question, she turned and walked out of the royal court. Chapter 1354. The old man leaning on the reclining chair said in a deep voice after seeing night-leaning moon's state, "Qingyue, you are now a person who has taken in a disciple. You still have to make plans for your disciple. Since you know about this matter, we will ask the Moon Empress for her opinion in a few days. If the Moon Empress is willing, we can simply convene a royal court conference." When night-leaning moon heard the old man's words, a complicated warmth appeared on her expressionless face. Night-leaning moon had accepted Lu Jie as a disciple largely because the Moon Empress had accepted Lin Yuan as a disciple. The scene of the Moon Empress carrying the heavily injured Lin Yuan shocked night-leaning moon. Night-leaning moon didn't dare to believe that with the Moon Empress temperament, she would personally carry someone. At that time, night-leaning moon also had thoughts of accepting a disciple. It just so happened that Lu Jie and Lin Yuan had gone through thick and thin together, and he was also part of the Radiance 100 sequence. The 30 minutes he had exchanged for outside Indigo Azure City was enough to prove Lu Jie's character. Night-leaning moon decided to accept Lu Jie as her disciple. From Lu Jie and Lin Yuan, night-leaning moon had a feeling that she and the Moon Empress had reincarnated. It could be said that before night-leaning moon accepted Lu Jie as her disciple, she didn't have any feelings for him. However, after this period of interaction, it was undeniable that Lu Jie had become night-leaning moon's deepest shackles apart from the Moon Empress. Night-leaning moon knew that the Moon Empress wouldn't allow the other majesties to know that she only had 4 years of lifespan left. Moreover, after eating a spirit material that could increase one's lifespan, if one wanted to increase one's lifespan, they would have to eat a spirit material that was of a higher grade. Now, he had even taken out a treasure like the geocentric immortal milk. What else could be more precious than the geocentric jade milk, a higher grade spirit material that could increase one's lifespan? Just as the old man mentioned Lu Jie, night-leaning moon's heart rippled. Night-leaning moon's phone rang. Night-leaning moon took the phone and saw the caller ID. Night-leaning moon's brows immediately furrowed, and then she eagerly picked up the phone. As a moon envoy, Mystic Moon must know the Moon Empress' true situation. Night-leaning moon didn't know why Xianyu would call her, but she had a lot of questions to ask Xianyu. After picking up the call, before Xianyu could say anything, Xianyu, who was on the other end of the line, picked it up. Night-leaning moon had already taken the initiative to ask. "Black Moon, tell me, is the Moon Empress lifespan only left with 4 years?" Mystic Moon already felt awkward calling night-leaning moon, but this concerned Lu Jie's safety and Hui Yao's reputation. Lu Jie decided to communicate with night-leaning moon first. In the end, night-leaning moon's sharp question made Xianyu dumbfounded. How did night-leaning moon know about this? It was obvious that the Moon Empress didn't tell night-leaning moon about this. If that was the case, night-leaning moon wouldn't have asked him again. Based on Mystic Moon's understanding of Lin Yuan, it was even more impossible for him to leak this matter. When night-leaning moon said that the Moon Empress lifespan was 4 years and not 3 years, it meant that night-leaning moon had included the geocentric jade milk when calculating the Moon Empress lifespan. It seemed that night-leaning moon had learned about this from the old man or the cicada. Without Lin Yuan's lifespan rat, Mystic Moon didn't dare to imagine how he would feel after learning that the Moon Empress only had 3 years left to live. It could be said that Lin Yuan had given the Moon Empress, herself, Song Yu, and the entire Radiant Moon Palace a new life. This matter was of great importance, and it was impossible for Mystic Moon to divulge it. Even if Night Leaning Moon asked him. Even if this matter was to be revealed, it could only be revealed by Lin Yuan and the Moon Empress, the two masters of the Radiant Moon Palace. The Moon Empress didn't have much lifespan left, and Mystic Moon knew about it from Cicada Cry. Since Night Leaning Moon understood the situation from the cicada, it didn't matter whether he admitted it or not. Mystic Moon muttered to himself for a long time and softly acknowledged. Upon hearing Mystic Moon's acknowledgement, Night Leaning Moon couldn't help but reveal a sorrowful expression again. Night Leaning Moon had a sorrowful expression. However, she spoke to Mystic Moon in an unusually cold tone. "Why did you call me?" Mystic Moon was rather displeased with Night Leaning Moon's tone. However, he still told Night Leaning Moon the news that Lin Yuan had told him in full detail. Originally, Mystic Moon wanted to ask for Night Leaning Moon's opinion, but Night Leaning Moon hung up the phone. After hanging up the phone, Night Leaning Moon's eyes instantly turned pitch black. This time, Night Leaning Moon waved her hand again and summoned the black crystal that she had just summoned. However, this time, when the black crystal appeared, it wasn't the Radiance Royal Court that turned into night, but the entire main world. At noon, the sun was bright and clear, and there were no clouds in the sky. The Radiance Federation's working hours were 6 hours. Every ordinary person only needed to work for 6 hours a day before they could get off work and rest, enjoy life, and live a very comfortable life. On the contrary, Spirit Chi professionals had to work day and night to upgrade phase. Capable people did more work, and this was probably the truth of this world. When these ordinary people got off work and went home, they would see the sun setting in the west, but there weren't any clouds in the sky. They couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. There wouldn't be any burning clouds to see today. At that moment, the darkness suddenly rippled in the sky. There wasn't any time for people to react, and the sky had turned into pure black. The black was deep, but it wasn't the end. More and more ink piled up, giving the darkness a deep and serene color. Under the dark sky, apart from the Moon Empress who was in seclusion, the other Radiance monarchs looked up at the sky at the same time. They felt strange. What's going on with Night Leaning Moon? Night Leaning Moon was such a self-restrained person. How could she publicly activate her sacred source life form and use its power to affect the world? This didn't seem like something Night Leaning Moon would do. Mystic Moon was speechless after Night Leaning Moon hung up on him. The reason he made this call was to get in touch with Night Leaning Moon and ask for her opinion on the matter. Who would have thought that Night Leaning Moon would hang up right after he finished speaking? What does Night Leaning Moon mean? Even if she has an opinion about me, she should know when. Before Mystic Moon could feel depressed, he saw the dark sky in the Radiant Moon Palace. Seeing the sudden darkness, Mystic Moon's eyes narrowed. Night Leaning Moon's sacred source life form was already at the pinnacle of 10 star. When a sacred source life form reached the peak of 10 star, it could display its ability to affect the entire world. If the complete dark sky wisdom was used at full power, it could bring about a huge disaster to the world. The dark sky wisdom could make the sky stay in a state of eternal darkness. This state only needed to be maintained for a week. Without the nourishment of sunlight, weaker plant species phase would wither. These weaker plants that needed to photosynthesize were often the cornerstone of the ecosystem. It could be said that the dark sky wisdom could completely destroy the natural ecosystem. Could it be that Night Leaning Moon was angry when she heard that the sea race tore up the Radiant Sea Treaty and planned to kill Lu Jie on the island outside Raging Wave City? Chapter 1355. Impossible. Given the Moon Empress personality, it was possible for her to show off for her disciple. However, based on Mystic Moon's understanding of Night Leaning Moon would never do that. Soon, Mystic Moon thought of a possibility. If Night Leaning Moon knew from Cicada that the Moon Empress only had 4 years of lifespan left, everything would make sense. Night-leaning moon had activated the sacred source life form, dark sky prajna. It was obvious that she did not intend to resolve the issue of the imperial mermaids and mermaids publicly tearing up the Radiant Sea Treaty through peaceful means. Instead, she intended to use force. The darkness in the sky was still accumulating, and the enormous power of night seemed to have plunged the entire origin world into a world of darkness where there was no daylight. The people of the various continents of the origin world summoned their glowing phase or spiritual ingredients and looked at the sky uneasily. They thought that the end of the world was coming. In the Azure Federation, the experts of the Azure Federation's 10 great families walked in the void. All of these powerful beings had a part of their bodies that was emitting a deep blue luster. The deep blue luster passed through their spirit chi clothes and evolved into all kinds of divine spirit items. The experts in the void looked at the sky with solemn expressions, all of them pondering over the matter. One of the elders emitted an azure luster that formed an elegant and nimble leopard-shaped phantom outside his spirit chi clothing. The elder thought to himself. Lin followed Lan Sun to the Radiance Federation. They're already halfway there. The Radiance faction's Night Empress suddenly changed the weather. What is her intention? Is the Radiance faction going to make a big move? At that thought, the elder revealed a worried expression. It was unknown whether the elder was worried about the Radiance faction's big move or Lin's safety. Among the ancient castles with gilded walls and tiles, there was an open-air temple made of pure white stone. Outside the temple was a huge plaza. The plaza was paved with large pieces of sunlight stones. These sunlight stones covered the temple with a layer of sacred light. The temple's 16 pure white stone pillars were carved with various patterns with golden lines. The patterns on each stone pillar were different. These patterns seemed to have a special meaning that could make people involuntarily immerse themselves in it. It was as if each pattern on the stone pillar was a climbing path. However, the paths carved on these stone pillars seemed to have been cut off at the waist, making it impossible to walk on smoothly. The stone pillars shone upon each other, as if they were complementing each other. Behind each stone pillar stood a red statue. However, the red statue behind one of the stone pillars had already been smashed into pieces. Broken red statues were scattered around the white stone pillars, making the clean and dust-free temple seem very disharmonious. Inside the temple, there were 16 seats and 48 prayer mats. 48 white-robed elders sat on each of the 48 prayer mats. The 48 white-robed elders all raised their heads to look at the darkening sky outside the temple. On the 16 chairs in front of him sat 14 figures with different postures. These 14 figures were all dressed in red robes, and each of their robes was embroidered with intricate golden patterns. The 14 figures in red robes looked at the sky thoughtfully. One of them, a lazy woman with her hair tied up in a bun, said casually while caressing the jewels inlaid on the chair. Changing the weather. I wonder if it's the phoenix from the heaven-blessed mansion or that cold woman, Night Empress Hui Yao. As soon as the woman's voice fell, a calm voice spoke. There's a strange aura hidden in the weather. This is obviously Night Empress Hui Yao's ability. Nah, your eyesight has regressed. Every time your world calamity phaseless beast reincarnates, your mind will always become unclear and unclear. When the woman heard this calm voice, she glanced at the golden-haired middle-aged man sitting not far from her and said with a playful expression, "You wouldn't have dared to say these words to me before my phaseless beast reincarnated. Chien, your courage is always just right." When the golden-haired middle-aged man heard the lazy woman's words, he snorted. Nah, this isn't the first time you've experienced my courage." When the lazy woman heard the golden-haired middle-aged man's words, the hand that was caressing the jewels suddenly exerted force. Her dark red nails pierced the jewels, producing a metallic sound. The woman giggled. After laughing enough, she didn't continue Chien's words. Clearly, the relationship between the two wasn't happy. At that moment, a plump man rubbed his big belly and said, "The power of the night is gathering above our Freedom Federation's Southwest Sea region. If I remember correctly, Du Miao gave that place to the Imperial Mermaid clan of the Ocean Empire's 8 clans. It seems like the Imperial Mermaid clan has somehow offended Night Empress Hui Yao. As the plump man spoke, he squinted his eyes and smiled gently. His squinted eyes were filled with shrewd calculations. When Nana heard the plump man's words, she looked at one of the empty chairs and said, Du Miao has negotiated with the Imperial Mermaid Clan. Now, he simply stays with the Imperial Mermaid Clan all day. He doesn't even participate in the monthly worship ceremony at the Divine Temple of Liberty. If that cold woman, Night Empress, is only targeting the Ocean Empire's 8 clans, I don't think we need to intervene in this matter. The Ocean Empire's 8 clans are cooperating with Du Miao. We didn't get any benefits. If there's a problem, Du Miao will naturally take it. After Nana finished speaking, she slowly took out a hair clip covered with jewels from her red robe. She used the hair clip to pin the hair that covered half of her face into a bun. Then, she closed her eyes and continued with the worship ceremony. It was as if the anomaly in the sky did not exist. When the other 13 people heard Nana's words, a few of them had a playful expression, and a few of them had a thoughtful expression. In any case, they all had their own thoughts. In the end, the 13 people closed their eyes like Nana and performed the worship ceremony. At that moment, flickering shadows appeared in the dark sky. These shadows finally formed a mask in the sky above the Freedom Federation's Southwest Sea region. Within the mask, there was a black snake coiling around the mask. The snake's tail wantonly passed through the holes of the mask. Suddenly, the mask turned dark purple, and the black snake melted into the mask. The 2 holes on the mask turned into 2 huge black snake eyes. Immediately after, the mask cracked open like a door. Dark shadows poured out from the cracked door into the sea like a black waterfall. In an instant, the entire sea region was dyed black. The sea region, which was originally full of vitality, was instantly devoid of life. The entire sea region seemed to have turned into a prison weaved by darkness. It imprisoned any living thing and banished all living things into the endless darkness until their lives withered away. At that moment, the ink-stained sea suddenly set off a huge wave that was tens of thousands of meters high. Within the huge wave, a dark red shark let out a violent roar towards the sky. Chapter 1356. The shark's roar caused the entire ink-like sea to be suffused with the color of blood. Before the shark's 10,000-meter wave had even fallen, thousands of huge red waves that pierced the sky had already formed in the sea. They pierced straight into the ink-colored dome. The thousands of huge red waves that reached the sky struck the dark purple mask, causing cracks to appear on the mask. However, these cracks caused the cracked door of the mask to become larger, causing more shadows to pour out of the mask like a waterfall into the sea. At this time, the giant shark that leaped out of the sea had already transformed into a tall and burly man. The man wore a red armor, and a majestic aura that could dominate the 4 seas shot out from his eyes. But at this moment, this majesty was mixed with a thick sense of resentment. The sea below him had lost all signs of life, and there was not a single creature that could breathe above the sea level of 1,000 meters. Moreover, the dense power of night was still seeping into the deep sea. The red-armored man opened his mouth, and the garlic clove-like sharp teeth in his mouth made the red-armored man look abnormally ferocious and terrifying. The man spat out a blood-colored torrent of thousands of shark from his mouth. The blood-colored torrent once again crashed into the purple mask in the sky. Thousands of blood-colored shark crashed into the purple mask, causing more and more cracks to appear on the mask. Finally, the mask turned into an illusion. The mask in the sky disappeared, and there were no longer shadows pouring out of the mask's open door into the sea. However, the disappearance of the purple mask did not cause the night to become lighter. After the blood-colored shark torrent broke through the purple mask, these shark illusions merged into the sea. They spun their bodies with all their might, creating a blood-colored sea tornado. The blood-colored tornado absorbed the power of night in the sea, causing the ink-colored sea to gradually fade away. At this time, 4 or 5 giant shark leaped out of the sea, transforming into human forms and arriving beside the burly man. A youth with short blood-colored hair said angrily, "Second Master, all the arrangements we made in the sea during this time, except for the ones at the bottom of the sea, have been destroyed." This sea has been infected by the power of night, and it is impossible to recover in a short period of time. We can't stay in this sea any longer, or else even eating will be a problem. The Imperial Mermaid clan of the 8 clans of the Sea Monarch was a clan of spiritual creatures in the sea. Members of the Imperial Mermaid clan had a huge appetite. Each time they ate, they could devour a large number of marine fays in the sea. By now, all living creatures in this area had been affected by the dark power and turned into night mist. If Imperial mermaids and mermaids continued to live in this area, they would have to starve. The blood-armored man ignored the red-haired youth's words. Instead, he turned to the older man beside him and asked, "Old Five, are there any casualties in the clan?" The man addressed as Old Five by the red-armored man replied, "Today, apart from a small number of members of the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids clan who were sealed in the sea territory, most of them are in the Mermaids' Emperor's palace at the bottom of the sea. There should be no casualties." As he spoke, the 5 looked up at the night sky before continuing. Second Master, Night Empress Hui Yao used a complete sacred source life form to change the weather to target the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids. She has publicly broken the Hui Hai Treaty. The Radiance sect must give us an explanation. Otherwise, Second Master, why don't we gather the other 7 Sea Monarch clans and flood the Radiance continent? The red-armored man glared at 5. Nonsense. If you want to mobilize the water of the 4 seas to flood the Radiance continent, we, the Imperial Mermaids, can do it ourselves. But what's the use of flooding the Radiance continent's 32 cities if we can't kill all of their experts? As he spoke, the red-armored man's expression became fiercer and fiercer. At the same time, there was an obvious fear in his fierceness. The sea territory was twice the size of the land. It could be said that the sea occupied at least 70% of the world's treasures. Land life forms could not compete with sea life forms, but there were exceptions to everything. One of them was that it was easier for humans to become creation masters and raise the sacred source life forms star level. This advantage of humans made the factions that were formed by fays envious. As for the favored spirits, they were not included in this comparison. Once they awakened their bloodline, the favored spirits could trigger a weather phenomenon and were favored by heaven and earth. They had to rely on the heavens to feed them. This was an advantage that humans and ordinary fays could not compare to. It was also the reason why the Blessed Dojo had always been so outstanding among all the factions in the world. The reason the 8 clans had signed the Radiance Sea Treaty with the Radiance Federation, which was on land, was because the Radiance experts had sacred source life forms that were at least 10 stars. By relying on a complete sacred source life form to change the weather, they could attack everything that was enveloped by the weather phenomenon. This kind of attack had a very strong deterrent effect. As long as a federation or a major faction had such an expert with a complete sacred source life form, they would receive the respect of other federations and major factions. The 8 clans also had such means. However, as the 8 clans were all born from fays, it was a shame to say that the number of experts from the 8 clans that could trigger a weather phenomenon was only about the same as the number of Radiance experts who had signed the Radiance Sea Treaty. If they really flooded the Radiance continent, the complete sacred source life forms would trigger a weather phenomenon together and attack the Imperial Mermaids. Unless the experts from the 8 clans joined forces to resist, no one from the Imperial Mermaids would survive except for the eldest brother. Night Leaning Moon, who was in the Radiance Imperial Court, had a cold expression after her mask was destroyed by the blood torrent. She then snorted. A beautiful ghost face was tattooed on the left side of Night Leaning Moon's face. On the beautiful ghost face was a small snake with black scales that glowed with purple light. At that moment, Night Leaning Moon's temperament under the black veil suddenly became coquettish. The instant the ink snake slithered into Night Leaning Moon's hair, Night Leaning Moon's black pupils suddenly turned into purple vertical pupils. Night Leaning Moon softly chanted, "Dark Sky Prajna, Darkest Night, 100 Ghosts Parade, Activate." Following Night Leaning Moon's elegant and cool cry, the dark horizon of the Freedom Federation's Northwest Sea region suddenly rippled with a bewitching purple color. The purple light rippled in the dark night, making it even more dangerous. As the purple light rippled, the red-armored man suddenly realized that the purple mask was like stars in the night sky. Upon seeing this scene, the red-armored man immediately crouched on the surface of the sea. Immediately, countless blood-colored sharks drilled out of the red-armored man's palm. These sharks covered the surface of the sea as if they were holding up a layer of shield on the surface. At the same time, the red-armored man anxiously said to the red-haired youth, "Go to the mermaid's imperial palace and find me. Explain the situation to me. This is the Freedom Federation's sea territory. I don't believe that Du Miao, who has been a guest in the mermaid's imperial palace for the past few days, will not come to help." When the red-haired youth heard the red-armored man's words, he immediately transformed into his original form and headed for the mermaid's imperial palace in the depths of the sea. Chapter 1357. At this moment, the red-armored man had already assumed a defensive stance. However, the purple masks that appeared in the sky didn't crack open like before and pour into the sea. All of a sudden, the purple masks shattered into pieces. The night sky was indescribably strange under these purple fragments. These purple fragments scattered in the night sky, finally gathering together to form a small purple 9-story pagoda. There were several dark purple prajna masks on each level of this 9-storied pagoda. On the prajna mask, there was a small, ink-colored snake crawling. The purple pagoda set off a purple wave in the night sky. Then, the first, second, and third floors of the purple pagoda lit up. The first layer, the third layer, and the third layer. The black snakes swimming on the wisdom mask drilled into the mask at the same time. The hollow eyes of the wisdom mask instantly turned into snake pupils. Then, strange snapping sounds rang out in the sky. Following these 3 snapping sounds, the night sky became even darker. Large amounts of indescribable black objects poured out of the opened 3-story pagoda. These indescribable black objects emitted strange laughter. These laughter entered the red-armored man's ears. The red-armored man felt a sense of dread, as if he had been exiled to endless darkness. The red-armored man hurriedly gathered his thoughts. Just as he was about to make a move, the sea suddenly turned a murky blood red. The Red Sea spun, forming a bloody vortex that stretched as far as the eye could see. Slowly, a millstone appeared in the middle of the vortex. The millstone spun, emitting a dull grinding sound. The blood-colored millstone propped up a blood-colored barrier on the surface of the sea, welcoming the indescribable black objects that the purple demon pagoda had sent down. The instant these indescribable black objects landed on the blood-colored millstone's barrier, they seemed to be absorbed by an indescribable spatial power. The grinding sound of the millstone intensified, as if the millstone was grinding these indescribable black objects into dregs. For a time, the blood-colored millstone and the purple demon pagoda in the sky were in a deadlock. A man even more muscular than the red-armored man appeared on the blood-colored millstone. Beside the man was a beautiful man with long orange hair and a red robe. After the orange-haired man appeared, he raised his head and glanced at the purple tower that had 3 floors. Then, he quietly played with a pair of golden-red fruits in his hands. The man on the blood-colored millstone turned around and said to the orange-haired man, "Du Miao, I've agreed to all the conditions you mentioned before. We can be considered allies now." The Freedom Federation and the Radiance Federation have always been sworn enemies, and the enmity between them is even greater than the enmity between the Imperial Mermaid Clan and the Imperial Ray Clan. The phenomenon caused by my blood sea millstone is in the sea region. It doesn't have much effect on the phenomenon in the sky. I'm not afraid of Radiance's Night Empress in a face-to-face battle, but if I want to tear apart this long, silent night, I still need your help. The orange-haired man revealed a warm smile. However, despite this warm smile, the orange-haired man did not agree to the man's request. I, Du Miao, have never helped anyone for free. My allies are no exception. Before, you agreed to my request because I also agreed to your Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids' request. This is a deal between us, a deal that is beneficial to both parties. It isn't difficult to tear apart this long, silent night. If I help you, what can you give me, Yuao? Yuao didn't mind Du Miao's words. The Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids had a lot of dealings with the Freedom Federation. Otherwise, they wouldn't have moved to the Freedom Federation's sea region. If they wanted to cooperate with the Freedom Federation's majesty, they would focus on benefits. As long as they could satisfy the Freedom Federation's majesty's expectations for benefits, everything could be discussed. The Freedom Federation was completely different from the Radiance Federation. It was possible to cooperate with the Radiance Federation's majesty, but the premise of this cooperation must be beneficial to the Radiance Federation. If they were to cooperate with the Radiance Federation's majesty that would harm the Radiance Federation's interests, it would likely lead to a war. In terms of overall strength, the Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation were comparable. However, the Radiance Federation was undoubtedly more feared by the Ocean Empire's 8 imperial clans than the Freedom Federation. This was the essential difference between placing a pair of chopsticks separately and placing them in a bundle. Yuao, who had cooperated with Du Miao before, knew Du Miao's expectations for benefits. Yuao immediately gave a base price that was in line with Du Miao's expectations. I can give you the use of the floating island whales in the sea region that our Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids rule. The premise is that you, Du Miao, have the ability to make these floating island whales voluntarily agree to help you transport the goods. Upon hearing that, the corners of Du Miao's good-looking mouth curled up into a 45-degree arc. Your Imperial Mermaids are really a competent Ocean Empire clan. The floating island whale is a cardinal treasure of the Ocean Empire, and it has become a bargaining chip for your Imperial Mermaids to negotiate for cooperation. I'm cooperating with your Imperial Mermaids because I like this point of your Imperial Mermaids. As soon as he finished speaking, an orange flaming whip appeared in Du Miao's hand. After this whip appeared, the air around it seemed as though it was burning. Du Miao held the whip and didn't target the strange purple pagoda in the sky. Instead, he swung it toward the night sky far away from the demon pagoda and chanted, "Tear it apart, lava abyss whip." A flame shot out from the swing of the whip and rushed into the night sky. The night sky seemed to have become the fuel for this flame, burning fiercely. Under the burning flame, a hole suddenly appeared in the night sky. The setting sun in the west emitted a remnant light that suddenly lit up the silent night. After the night sky was torn open and the sun was revealed, the sunlight made the flame burn even more fiercely. More of the night sky was burned by this flame. Night-leaning Moon, who was in the Radiance Royal Court, looked at the flame burning in the sky, and her eyes suddenly bloomed with a bloodthirsty aura. Du Miao, 10 years ago, you were the one who held me back and prevented me from fighting alongside Siue. Otherwise, with me burning my lifespan first, Siue wouldn't be able to burn her lifespan again. The black crystal in Night-leaning Moon's hand suddenly split into two under the activation of her spiritual power. At that moment, the purple demon pagoda in the Radiance Federation's southwest sea region also split into two. One of the purple demon pagoda crashed toward the flame. A large amount of black matter intertwined with the flame, preventing it from continuing to burn the power of night. However, the splitting of the purple demon pagoda also reduced the pressure on the Blood Sea Millstone. At present, Yuao was commanding the Blood Sea Millstone to counterattack the purple demon pagoda. Lin Yuan had been paying attention to the weather anomaly ever since it had started. From Lujia, he knew that this night sky was the power of the Spirit Guard's chief guard Night-leaning Moon's sacred source lifeform. This was not the first time he saw such an ability to change the weather. Chapter 1358. He did not know why the chief guard of the Spirit Guards wanted to change the weather. However, since he knew that the night was Night-leaning Moon's handiwork, Lin Yuan naturally had to stand on her side. Feeling the sun's suppression on the night, Lin Yuan turned to the Mother of Bloodbath beside him and asked, "Mother of Bloodbath, you've awakened the favored spirit. Mother of Bloodbath, you have awakened the Sky Corona Jade Spider bloodline. You can communicate with the sun. Can you reduce the sun's influence on the power of night?" The Mother of Bloodbath did not answer immediately. If the chief guard of the Spirit Guards was fighting an enemy, then this level of conflict was obviously not something it could intervene in. However, according to Lin Yuan, it could only reduce the sun's influence on the power of night. The mother of Bloodbath felt that it could do it. After trying to communicate with the sun and feeling for a while, the mother of Bloodbath said to Lin Yuan, I'll communicate with the sun. Lin Yuan, I'll communicate with the sun. The sun and I will be connected by a sun chain. As long as this sun chain is not forcefully cut off or isolated, I can stop the sun from shining. His master's bright moon high sky and twin moons high sky were equivalent to changes to the heaven and earth phenomena. However, in terms of impact, the change from day to night was obviously greater than the bright moon high sky and twin moons high sky. The mother of Bloodbath had the confidence to say that it could stop the sun from shining because it had inherited the Sky Corona Jade Spider bloodline's ability to control the sun's light. Although the mother of Bloodbath was only at Myth 3, its ability to control the sun's light was no weaker than a sacred source life form at its peak. Of course, the premise was that the sun chain that the mother of Bloodbath used to communicate with the sun would not be cut off by other experts. Once it was cut, the mother of Bloodbath would lose its connection with the sun. Only when the mother of Bloodbath's strength reached a certain level could it make the sun chain strong enough to communicate with the sun. At the same time, the mother of Bloodbath could rely on its own strength to protect the sun chain. When Lin Yuan heard the mother of Bloodbath's words, he did not immediately let it communicate with the sun. Instead, he asked the mother of Bloodbath, "If an expert cuts off the sun chain that separates you from the sun, will your safety be affected?" Upon seeing that Lin Yuan was worried about its safety, the mother of Bloodbath felt warmth in its heart. The mother of Bloodbath smiled under the night sky and said softly to Lin Yuan, "Severing the connection between me and the sun will at most prevent me from communicating with the sun. It won't threaten my safety. Unless the expert who released that ball of flame triggered the celestial phenomenon and directly attacked me." This is the Radiance Federation's royal capital. If someone really wants to trigger a celestial phenomenon in the sky above the royal capital, the crowns in the Radiance Federation will not agree. As it spoke, the mother of Bloodbath's hair lit up with a faint light. The delicate light spots shuttled back and forth between the mother of Bloodbath's hair, adding a touch of gentleness to its cold temperament. Immediately after, these spots of light acted as a catalyst, causing all the mother of Bloodbath's hair to light up. Finally, a crown made of sunlight was placed on the mother of Bloodbath's head. The evening sun was dim. Although the light of dusk shone through the night and lit up the world, it still made the world shrouded in darkness hazy. In the dusk, the mother of Bloodbath was like the rising sun on earth. With Lin Yuan's return from Faraway Manor as the center, the light emitted from the mother of Bloodbath's hair illuminated half of the royal capital and into the Radiance Royal Court. As the mother of Bloodbath circulated its spiritual power, the setting sun seemed to sense something and suddenly lit up with a dazzling light. It was as if it was not dusk but noon. The sun descended, and a chain made of light fell on the mother of Bloodbath, making it look like the sun goddess while bathed in sunlight. Just as everyone watching the celestial phenomenon thought that the sun was going to help the orange flames drive away the night sky, the sun's brilliance suddenly converged. Du Miao did not use his lava abyss mantle whip to attack the purple demon towers in the sky. Instead, he chose to attack the night sky. He hoped to tear open the night sky to reveal the sun and use the sun's heat to enhance the flames. At the same time, he relied on the sunlight and the power of night to offset each other and weaken the power of night. However, the sun's light was converged and no longer offset the power of night. Du Miao's plan was tantamount to failure. At that moment, there was only one way to end this silent night, and that was to face the two purple demon towers in the sky. However, Du Miao's mind was not on the purple demon towers. Instead, it was on the descending chain. Du Miao could not help but think about it. There were only so many sacred source life forms that had reached the complete stage in the world. Pinnacle experts belonged to different factions, and most of them had fought before. The Radiance Federation did have an eminence that could use a sacred source life form to form a celestial phenomenon related to the sun. This eminence did have the ability to stop the sun from shining. However, none of this was done by the Radiance Federation's His Holiness. The descending chain was too thin and small, and it was enough to see that the person who made the sun descend the chain was not very strong. This kind of strength was not worthy of a 9-star sacred source life form. Therefore, it was very likely that a favored spirit had caused the sun to descend the chain. Didn't the sun descend several chains in the radiance's direction a few hours ago? Du Miao had also noticed the sun phenomenon. At that time, Du Miao was certain that a favored spirit had awakened its bloodline in the radiance's direction. Everything had happened too coincidentally, and the descending chain was very likely the work of that favored spirit. However, if it was really the work of the favored spirit, then things would be troublesome. Everything that had happened was a grudge between the Radiance Federation and the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids. It had happened in the sea region near the Freedom Federation, so it was reasonable for him to intervene. However, if it involved the favored spirit, he might be viewed as an enemy by the Heaven-Blessed Mansion if he intervened. It was known that the Heaven-Blessed Mansion was very protective. Previously, a medium-sized federation had wanted to detain and capture a favored spirit that had yet to reach Diamond. In the end, that favored spirit was unwilling to be restrained and burned its bloodline to trigger a celestial phenomenon. Not long after, the Heaven-Blessed Mansion came knocking and used a forceful stance to force the medium-sized federation to hand over the favored spirit. At the same time, the Heaven-Blessed Mansion's master had caused the medium-sized federation to have no harvest for 3 years as a punishment. This matter had shocked the entire continent. It was also this matter that pushed the Heaven-Blessed Mansion, which was formed by the favored spirit, to the heart of the struggle. The Heaven-Blessed Mansion might have been living in seclusion, but when something really happened, none of the Heaven-Blessed Mansion's master was easy to get along with. Du Miao had always prioritized benefits when doing things. No matter when, he would only be willing to do things when the returns were greater than the effort. There was indeed a favored spirit in the Heaven-Blessed Mansion that could trigger the sun's power. Chapter 1359. However, this chosen spirit should have been killed by the 5 pages of truth of the Tower Canon many years ago. This matter was not known to the smaller federations. However, the Freedom Federation was one of the 3 great federations. Could it be that the Heaven-Blessed Dojo's second dojo master, Tiangui Jade Spider, was not killed by the 5 pages of truth? Something's not right. The information couldn't be wrong. Moreover, the strength of this sun chain was not right. It was definitely not something the second Hall Lord of the Blessed Heavens Mansion could unleash. That was strange. Could it be that after the death of the Heavens Blessed Dojo's second dojo lord, another spirit of the sun appeared in this world? Seeing that Du Miao didn't have any intention to continue attacking, instead, he had a pensive look on his face. Yueo could not help but ask, Du Miao, we've already discussed the conditions just now. You deal with the Dark Night celestial phenomenon, and I'll give you 10% of the floating island whale's resources in the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids' territorial waters. You can't go back on the deal we just made. Du Miao raised his eyebrows under his long orange hair. We did discuss a deal just now, but this deal is only targeted at the Radiance Federation's Night Empress and didn't involve the Heaven-Blessed Mansion. Yueo, the price you've given me is too low after adding the Blessed Dojo. Hearing Du Miao's words, Yueo's face showed a hint of anger. No one knew if he was angry at Du Miao for breaking the promise, or angry at the sun chain in the sky. Du Miao did not care about Yueo's attitude at all, but Yueo could not wait any longer. The Night Empress came aggressively and it was impossible for her to stop so easily. If they really ended up in a stalemate here, the aftermath of the battle might threaten the other members of the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids clan. As the leader of the Imperial Mermaid clan, Yueo could not just watch the members of the Imperial Mermaid clan die in front of him. Yueo gritted his teeth and said, 30%, I'll give you 30%. If the Blessed Abode comes looking for trouble, my Imperial Mermaid clan will take responsibility. While speaking, Yueo's blood-colored energy seeped out of his body, and the blood sea millstone under his feet paused. Then, the blood-colored millstone flung a dark red substance into the sky. It looked like the residue left behind after the millstone grinded something. This mass blocked the sun and cut off the sunlight chain connecting the sun and the mother of bloodbath. The reason why Yuao chose to do this was because he had weighed the pros and cons. Du Miao was a person who prioritized profit over everything, so it was impossible for him to take the initiative to offend the blessed heaven's mansion. Thus, he could only resolve Du Miao's worries and drag the hatred of heaven's blessed dojo onto the imperial mermaids and mermaids. Only then would Du Miao be able to attack again. He had indeed blocked the connection between Hui Yao's favored spirit and the sun. However, he did not harm the heavenly chosen spirit. The heaven-blessed mansion had always been reasonable, so they probably wouldn't make a big fuss over this. Hearing Yuao's words, coupled with Yuao's actions just now, Du Miao felt that the imperial mermaids and mermaids clan had indeed been implicated. Du Miao decided not to stand idly by. Du Miao waved the long whip in his hand, and the long whip turned into a giant flaming snake. The giant snake's body was brown and several thousand meters long. Its body was covered in rolling lava, like a moving mantle. After Du Miao removed his phase-exclusive specialization, he leaped onto the lava abyssal mantle snake's back. Du Miao pointed to the sky with his right hand, and the sea level surged violently. A volcano that seemed to be able to melt the entire world grew from the bottom of the sea. The volcano spewed out a large amount of lava into the sky, engaging in a fierce battle with the power of night. Two flying snakes made of lava flew out of the volcano's crater and headed toward the two purple demon towers. Du Miao and Night Leaning Moon relied on the astronomical phenomenon triggered by the sacred source lifeforms to fight. Du Miao's all-out attack relieved the pressure on Yuao. Yuao joined the battle. He lifted the blood millstone formed from the sea with one hand and threw it toward the night sky. Night Leaning Moon, who was in the Radiance Royal Court, felt the blood-colored millstone flying toward the night sky. She clenched the black crystal that had split into two in her palm. The black crystal pierced into Night Leaning Moon's palm and absorbed her blood. This caused the black crystal in Night Leaning Moon's palm to change again. The black crystal did not continue to split, but an indescribable figure appeared in each of the black crystals. At that moment, the four levels of the two purple demon towers opened at the same time. A monster made of an indescribable black substance flew out of the fourth level of the two purple demon towers. After the two monsters appeared, they fought with the two fire snakes that flew out of the volcano. The two purple demon towers rose into the sky and crashed toward the blood-colored millstone. They looked like they were going to smash the blood millstone. Night Leaning Moon was fighting two enemies by herself, while in the sky above an unknown sea region. A red-haired man with odd pupils was originally rushing and did not care that the day had suddenly turned into night. The red-haired man was followed by a blue-haired woman and a burly man in a fishing net suit. The burly man in the fishing net suit let out an extremely comfortable panting sound under the night sky. It seemed like the burly man in the black fishing net suit was very comfortable under the night sky. Shui Shuo, Blue Lotus, and the Radiance Night Empress power of night taste so good. It's the taste I like. I must meet the Night Empress when I go to the Radiance Federation this time. Do you think she's easy to flirt with? Will she also like the smell of the power of night on my body? Shui Shuo was only thinking about his daughter, so he had no time for Bai Feng. The corner of Lan Lian's mouth twitched when she heard Bai Feng's words. Bai Feng's frivolous behavior had caused the power of night within her to be tainted with a foul smell. The Night Empress, as Her Majesty Hui Yao, was an outstanding talent of the present age. As long as such a person had a normal sense of beauty and didn't have any special hobbies, he definitely wouldn't fall for Bai Feng. Lan Lian felt that if a burly man wearing a fishnet suit and painted his nails chased after her, she would definitely be extremely annoyed. If this burly man thought that he was feeling good and forcefully tried to flirt with the girl, he might even fight with this burly man. They had 3 goals for going to the Radiance Federation this time. The first was to find the daughter of Shui Shuo and Yuge. The second was to find the heavenly protector spirit that could absorb many types of phenomena. The third was to express his gratitude to the Moon Empress. Bai Feng went to flirt with the Night Empress. Don't fight with the Night Empress after failing to flirt with her. Before Blue Lotus could open her mouth to give Bai Fengfeng some advice, Xue Shuo, Lan Lian, and Bai Feng all looked at the ribbon where the sun had descended. Seeing this bond, Xue Shuo trembled with excitement. This bond proved that his daughter had indeed survived under the protection of the Moon Empress. This slender sun ribbon was equivalent to giving Xue Shuo a reassurance pill. Xue Shuo didn't know his daughter's current situation. However, he knew that his daughter had attracted the sun at this time because she definitely wanted to help the Radiance Night Empress. Otherwise, the sun wouldn't have its light floating on the surface and no longer emitting outwards. Before Xue Shuo could see enough of this sun ribbon, he saw a mass of dark red matter sever the sun ribbon at its waist. Chapter 1360. It caused Xue Shuo to lose his sense of his daughter. Xue Shuo was immediately enraged, and the sunset bathrobe was draped over him. You fucking dared to cut off my daughter's descending sun chain. You even made me lose my sense of my daughter. How can you be so awesome? Xue Shuo looked at the sun, but it was not as bright. Instead, it turned into a dark sphere like a solar eclipse. An abnormally thick sun chain descended from the sun toward Xue Shuo. When the sun chain fell on the dark red substance spat out by the blood sea millstone, it directly incinerated the dark red substance. Xue Shuo's sun chain burned the dark red substance, allowing the mother of bloodbath's sun chain to descend again. The thick and thin sun chains were far apart, but they echoed each other. The mother of bloodbath's heart palpitated for no reason in the return from faraway manor. Through its communication with the sun, the mother of bloodbath could sense that the other sun chain was of the same origin as itself. In other words, the blessed spirit that had descended that sun chain was likely its family. Looking at the thick sun chain in the distant sky, the mother of bloodbath pursed its lips tightly. Ever since it had gained consciousness, the mother of bloodbath had survived alone in the forest and experienced the law of the jungle in the Fey world. All along, the mother of bloodbath had not had the concept of family. Later, when it learned that little Feys were born from Fey parents, the mother of bloodbath reflected. Why did it not have parents by its side when it was young? Not having parents by its side was also a major reason why the mother of bloodbath was so cold and unsociable. Later, it met Lin Yuan, and he became a ball of warmth in the mother of bloodbath's heart. Because of Lin Yuan, the ball of warmth, the mother of bloodbath slowly integrated into the large group of return from faraway manor. While interacting with Lin Yuan, Lu Jie, and the others, it gained more warm spots of light. The mother of bloodbath once thought that this warmth might be familial love. But now that it saw the thick sun chain in the sky, the mother of bloodbath knew that the warmth in its heart was different from familial love. Familial love could not be replaced, even if they had never met. Relying on the connection between their bloodlines, the mother of bloodbath's heart palpitated and felt a trace of intimacy. However, this sense of intimacy made the mother of bloodbath clench its fists tightly. If the parents were weak little Feys, they would be killed by other Feys before they could gain consciousness. The mother of bloodbath would not blame anything. But now, one of his parents was a heavenly protector. Since his parents were so powerful, why did they abandon him? Upon seeing the mother of bloodbath's tightly clenched fist, Lin Yuan's heart tightened. Lin Yuan, who had lived 2 lives, could easily guess what the mother of bloodbath was thinking. He placed his hand on the mother of bloodbath's fist. The temperature of Lin Yuan's palm made the mother of bloodbath's clenched fist tremble. It was as though the heat from Lin Yuan's palm had traveled up his arm to the mother of bloodbath's heart. At that moment, the mother of bloodbath heard Lin Yuan speak. Mother of bloodbath, do you still remember that the sky corona jade spider had to pay a huge price to breed? If your parents didn't love you, they wouldn't have given birth to you. Lin Yuan's words were a little abrupt and unpleasant to the ears, poking directly at the mother of bloodbath's soft spot. However, Lin Yuan's words were the most effective. The mother of bloodbath held Lin Yuan's palm as though the temperature of Lin Yuan's palm could give it strength. Then, the corona on the mother of bloodbath's head emitted dazzling sunlight. The mother of bloodbath's chain that was connected to the sun wriggled, as though it was greeting the thick sun chain in the distance. The mother of bloodbath was not a gentle person. Since the sun chain had descended, It could have been one of its parents. The mother of Bloodbath naturally wanted to find out the reason it had been abandoned back then as a form of explanation. Shueshua was preparing to teach the blood-colored millstone that had severed his child's sun chain a lesson. However, when he saw the slender sun chain wriggling in the sky, Shueshua could not help but tear up again. How much Shueshua had hoped to find his and Yugue's child, and how much he feared that the child would hate him. Shueshua had now become a heavenly protector and the hall master of the Heaven's Blessed Dojo. There were few things in the world that Shueshua could not do. However, the powerful Shueshua could not use his strength to untie the child's heart. Shueshua was afraid that he would not dare to look into the child's resentful eyes even though he had clearly seen his and Yugue's child. Love would make a loving father fearful. Now that the other side had taken the initiative to respond to him, Shueshua's heart could not help but beat faster. Immediately, Shueshua's other eye glowed brightly, and the sunset bathrobe spread out a full 50 nautical miles. The sun chain that was connected to Shueshua quickly wriggled. One moment, it was wriggling like a fried dough twist, and the next moment, it was twisting into a ball of string. This thick sun chain seemed to be playing a flipping game, and everyone in the main world who saw this phenomenon was dumbfounded. Many experts who saw the sun chain's transformation thought that Shueshua had lost his mind. However, this did not include Blue Lotus, White Phoenix, or the other hall masters of the Heaven's Blessed Dojo. No one understood Shueshua's loving father better than the hall masters of the Heaven's Blessed Dojo. It was a kind of feeling that one would rather give up their life to fulfill. Blue Lotus and White Phoenix, whose eyes were red, patted Shueshua's shoulders, their eyes filled with blessings and joy for Shueshua. This time, Shueshua finally had the motivation to live on. With something to worry about, Shueshua would no longer treat revenge for Yugue as the main theme of his life. Sister Yugue's descendant had been found, and his heart was as affectionate as Sister Yuge. Under such circumstances, he would choose to take the initiative to respond to Shueshua. That's great. If Sister Yugue could come back to life, it would be even better for the family of three to be reunited. However, the dead could not be resurrected. This was the iron law of nature. This sentence was equally effective for the favored spirits of heaven and earth. The mother of Bloodbath looked at the thick sun chain that responded to it fiercely after it communicated with it. The mother of Bloodbath's heart trembled for no reason. This response was like the warmest water, melting the hard layer of ice that enveloped the mother of Bloodbath's heart. From this thick sun chain's reaction, the mother of Bloodbath knew how much its parents cared about it and how much they cared about it. After all, the emotions it felt from the sun chain that relied on communicating with the sun would not lie. The mother of Bloodbath and Shueshua met tens of thousands of kilometers apart. On the Freedom Federation's sea surface, Yueo's face was so gloomy that it was about to drip water. What does the Heaven's Blessed Dojo mean by this? Could it be that the Heaven's Blessed Dojo and the Radiance Federation have formed an alliance and are going to make a move against the Imperial Mermaid race? That shouldn't be the case. The Radiance Federation and the Heaven's Blessed Dojo have no reason to make a move against the Imperial Mermaid race. The Imperial Mermaid race was one of the top 3 races among the Ocean Imperial 8 clans and could completely represent the entire Ocean Imperial clan. Chapter 1361. The Heaven-Blessed Mansion would not be able to gain any benefits by making things difficult for the Imperial Mermaid clan. However, the eclipse-like black sun in the sky would not lie. If he didn't make a move now, he could quickly draw the hatred of Heaven-Blessed Dojo onto himself. If Du Miao saw that things weren't right, he would stop very quickly. Since that was the case, he could only use his true skills. Yueo grinned sinisterly when he saw his sacred source life form, the Blood Sea Millstone, locked in a stalemate with the 2 purple demon towers. Night-leaning Moon was far away in the Radiance Federation. She was overestimating her strength by using a sacred source life form to trigger a weather phenomenon. If Night Empress Radiance's true body was here, he might have to be wary if they fought face to face. Both of them were peak experts of the current era, so it was no different from a fool's dream to want to kill the other party from such a distance. Yueo stepped on the surface of the sea with his left foot. The surface of the sea instantly turned blood red. The blood sea millstone in the sky rapidly expanded, almost covering half of the sky. With a shake of his body, Uao transformed back into his original form and soared towards the blood sea millstone. Uao bumped into the blood ocean millstone and merged with it. Immediately after, a shark with a rope on it appeared in front of the millstone. The sea of blood converged under the millstone. The shark flicked its tail to pull the millstone, and a large amount of the power of night was sucked into the millstone. Then, under the repeated grinding of the millstone, it turned into dust. The dark red residue left behind by the grinding stone turned into a giant hand covered with black thorns, grabbing towards the purple demon tower. One of the purple demon towers couldn't dodge in time and was grabbed by the dark red giant hand. The giant hand wanted to drag the purple demon tower into the millstone and crush it. The indescribable black substance spurted out from the first 3 floors of the purple demon tower attached to the dark red blood hand. The two sides were engaged in a fierce struggle. Night Leaning Moon, who was in the Radiant's imperial court, was expressionless. The veins on her hand, which was holding the sacred source life form, Dark Sky Prajna, were bulging. He was obviously under a lot of pressure. Just as Night Leaning Moon was about to continue activating the sacred source life form, Dark Sky Wisdom, she acutely sensed a pure and enchanting power of night suddenly enter the night sky. This power of night was pure enough to support the Dark Sky Prajna. Night Leaning Moon tried to get the Dark Sky Prajna to activate the pure and enchanting power of night. The purple demon pagoda was strengthened by the pure power of night and immediately broke free from the dark red bloody hand. Another indescribable black demon flew out from the 4th floor of the purple demon tower, causing Uao to widen his eyes. He did not understand how Night Leaning Moon's strength had suddenly increased by so much. At this moment, Bai Feng, who was standing beside Xue Shua, transformed into her true form. Dense night power flowed into the night sky from her tail feathers. Standing beside Bai Feng, Lan Lian's expression changed slightly when she saw Bai Feng pouring the power of night into the sky. Just like how the Freedom Federation's Du Miao didn't want to provoke the Heaven-Blessed Mansion, the Heaven-Blessed Mansion similarly didn't want to provoke the Freedom Federation as an enemy. Xue Shua had triggered the Sunstripe because his child's Sunstripe had been cut off by the Blood Sea Millstone. However, Bai Feng's actions were equivalent to helping the Radiant's Night Empress. The Freedom Federation prioritized benefits, and they were definitely not pushovers. If the interests of the Freedom Federation were to be touched, the majesties of the Freedom Federation would go completely crazy. However, Lan Lian did not say anything to Bai Feng. The Radiant's Moon Empress had allowed Xueqing to successfully awaken the favored spirit bloodline and survive. She had done the Heaven-Blessed Mansion a great favor. No matter how rational Lan Lian was, she could not open her mouth to stop Bai Feng. When Bai Feng saw Lan Lian's expression, she spoke in a rare serious tone. The night sky is now completely covered by the Night Empress power of night. Only the Night Empress can sense it when I pour the power of night into the night sky. As long as the Night Empress doesn't say anything, the oceanic species and the Freedom Federation won't know about this. The Night Empress helped Sister Jade Gui and Xue Shua before. Otherwise, little Qing might have been taken away by the 5 pages of truth, and Brother Shua might have been killed by the 5 pages of truth. Our goal in going to Radiance is to find the favored spirit that can absorb weather. We don't know what's going on with that little fellow. When the time comes, we will need the help of the Radiance Highnesses. Now that I've helped the Night Empress, it will be easier for us to find the favored spirit in Radiance. When Lan Lian heard Bai Feng's words, she nodded. She had a feeling that the Heaven-Blessed Mansion would form a strong bond with Radiance in the future. On the back of the lava abyssal snake, Du Miao looked up at the purple demon tower in the sky, then at the night sky above him. Du Miao couldn't see anything different with his naked eyes, but his 6th sense felt that the sudden increase in the power of night was a little strange. Through that cooperation, Ji Hao and the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids clan were deeply bound in terms of benefits. Although it was not to the extent that they were bound together for good or ill. However, if the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids were hurt, it wouldn't do him any good. The wounded Imperial Mermaids and Merman clan would definitely be attacked by the Imperial Ray clan. At that time, his plan of using the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids clan to integrate the resources of the sea race would be nothing more than a pipe dream. Since the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids had pulled the hatred of the Blessed Dojo over, then Hui Yao's Night Empress would be dealt with by himself. If Hui Yao's Night Empress dares to cause such a huge disturbance near the Freedom Federation's territorial waters, then don't blame me for letting the boiling lava flow towards Hui Yao. Du Miao's orange hair fluttered without any wind, like a blazing flame. There seemed to be lava flowing in the flames. Du Miao, who was surrounded by flames, chanted softly, "Bloom, boiling platycodum." As Du Miao's voice fell, tens of thousands of stars appeared in the dark night sky. However, in the night sky that was enveloped by the power of night, even the sun could be isolated, so how could there be stars? Soon, these objects, which were mistaken as stars by the people of the origin world, rapidly expanded in the sky and finally formed the shape of a flower seed. However, this flower seed did not germinate in the night sky. Instead, after expanding to a certain extent, it blossomed into an extremely dazzling 5-petal flower. The edge of the 5-petal flower was a light yellow, and the closer to the center, the more gorgeous the color. The center was an orange-red color that looked like a flame. These flowers did not have buds, and they seemed to be brewing something. Soon, the core of the flower, which should have grown stamens, formed a huge upside-down volcano crater in the sky. The volcano boiled, and large amounts of scalding orange-red lava flowed down. These flowers just happened to bloom in the sky above the Radiance Federation, and the boiling lava headed straight for the Radiance Federation. If Night-Leaning Moon had unleashed her complete sacred source life form, Dark Sky Prajna, and recklessly attacked the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids in the Freedom Federation's territorial waters, then Du Miao's complete sacred source life form, Boiling Platycodon, and the lava falling from the sky was a counterattack against Night-Leaning Moon. This lava falling from the sky was like a natural disaster, and the Radiance Federation's ordinary people could not react in time. Even an Emperor stage powerhouse would feel insignificant and helpless in the face of this kind of power. At that moment, the elder on the reclining chair in the Radiance Imperial Court suddenly stood up. He took the walking stick beside the reclining chair and tapped it lightly on the ground. Chapter 1362. A thin branch separated from the reclining chair and drilled into the Radiance Imperial Court. It took root in the Radiance Imperial Court's courtyard. The young branch continued to grow and extend. 10 meters, 100 meters, 1,000 meters, 10,000 meters, 100,000 meters. Finally, this young branch's branches were like dragons, and its leaves were like phoenix feathers. The main trunk was tall and straight, and the golden leaves were lush. This tree covered the entire Radiance land. It became an indestructible protective umbrella in the Radiance Federation's sky during this lava calamity. This tree spanned hundreds of millions of miles under the night sky. It flickered with a dazzling golden radiance and supported the lava that fell from the sky. At the same time, this tree extended tens of thousands of branches toward the sky. The golden phoenix feather-like leaves on the branches wrapped around every bellflower that was spraying lava with the force of lightning. Soon, the golden phoenix feather-like leaves on the branches tore the bellflower into flower mud. Du Miao's face was full of fear as he looked at this towering golden tree that grew out of the radiance. Just as Du Miao was weighing the benefits and whether he should continue to fight, an elderly voice came from this ancient golden tree. The Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids have attacked the Radiance Federation's people in the territorial waters outside the Raging Wave City because of a large whale fall. The Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids have openly violated the Radiance Sea Treaty and treated it as nothing. Within a month from today, each of the 8 Ocean Imperial clans will send one person to the Radiance Federation to resolve this matter. The sacred source life form, Boiling Bellflower, is at the pinnacle of 10-star. It is indeed very strong to be able to trigger a meteorological phenomenon, but it should not have drawn the meteorological phenomenon to the Radiance Federation. Therefore, the the Radiance origin mark was planted in the boiling bellflower. This mark can be removed after a year, and you will have to bear the consequences if you forcefully break it. At that moment, the origin world's life forms, the various federations, and the various factions finally knew the reason for this world-shaking conflict. Du Miao had already noticed the changes in his sacred source life form, boiling bellflower, before the elderly voice had appeared. However, he had not had time to check what the golden mark on the bellflower was. Now that he heard this old man say that the mark was the Radiance origin mark, Du Miao's expression immediately turned ugly. At this moment, an aged voice came from the Freedom Federation's Temple of Freedom. However, compared to the kind and majestic voice from the ancient golden tree, the old voice from the Temple of Liberty was full of shrewdness and scheming. This matter was caused by your Radiance Federation first. Although the Imperial Mermaid clan has a personal grudge with your Radiance Federation in our Freedom Federation's territorial sea, it's still not enough. However, the Radiance Federation is not allowed to make a move in the Freedom Federation's territorial waters. But since Du Miao has also made a move against the Radiance Federation, this matter is considered even. Our two states will fight again during the assembly of 10,000 states. Night-leaning Moon's actions against the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids in the Freedom Federation's territorial waters were indeed too aggressive and somewhat inappropriate. But after all, it was to settle a grudge. This was completely different from Du Miao using the boiling platycodon to pour lava on the Radiance Federation's 32 major cities. Now, the old voice in the Temple of Liberty was clearly changing the concept. While changing the topic, he did not mention Hui Yuanyin at all. Obviously, he did not care about Du Miao's interests at all. However, the old voice's last sentence hit the nail on the head. The hatred between the Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation was not just a day or two. 10 years ago, one of the Freedom Federation's lords had died at the hands of the Moon Empress, and she had also paid a huge price for it. She was only left with 3 years of lifespan. The hatred between the two states was already irreconcilable. If the two states were to fight to the death, the entire main world would be destroyed. Therefore, if the two states wanted to fight to the death, the best way was to have the Federation's younger generation, which was the Radiance Envoys, form a 5-member team to compete at the assembly of 10,000 states. A neutral and peaceful okay came from the giant golden tree, which was considered to have acknowledged the voice that came from the Temple of Liberty. At that moment, Night-leaning Moon and UAO stopped fighting. At that moment, the Freedom Federation's voice sounded again. Since we are going to decide the winner at the assembly of 10,000 states, why don't we add some stakes? If the Radiance Federation loses, I want the Radiance Federation to build a star web in our Freedom Federation. Upon hearing the opposite voice, the neutral and peaceful voice from the ancient golden tree sounded again. If the Freedom Federation loses, the Radiance Federation wants a complete Class 5 creation master path in the Freedom Federation. When the Freedom Federation's elder heard this, he agreed without any hesitation. The word okay seemed to be filled with endless calculations. It was as though the Freedom Federation had absolute confidence that they would not lose this competition. This battle between the top experts of the current era, which relied on a complete sacred source life form, shocked all living beings in the main world. It also shocked those factions that did not have a complete sacred source life form. It made those factions understand the importance of a complete sacred source life form. However, the shock of this duel was far less exciting than the shock of the final bet. The Star Web was the specialty of the Radiance Federation, and it was something that only the Radiance Federation had. The Star Web was the product of 3 sacred source life forms. It was an innovation and coincidence. Among the 3 sacred source life forms, there was a complete sacred source life form. If the Freedom Federation wanted to bet on the Radiance Federation's Star Web, it was equivalent to betting on the Radiance Federation's second world. It could be said that any federation with the Star Web would be able to develop extremely quickly. However, the Freedom Federation's bet was equally shocking. The Memory Stone was one of the Freedom Federation's cornerstones. When an expert died, the Memory Stone could make a copy of the expert's complete legacy. The Freedom Federation's Memory Stone had always been sealing a Class 5 Creation Master's complete legacy. After releasing the entire inheritance, the memory within the Memory Stone would disappear. It could be said that this bet was equivalent to betting on the Freedom Federation's Class 5 Creation Master quota. When comparing the Class 5 Creation Master and the Star Web, it was hard to say which was more precious. One benefited everyone in the Federation, while the other benefited the Federation's experts. No matter what, this bet was enough to shock the world. It seemed like the 10,000 Nations Conference in 2 years would definitely have an intense confrontation. After all, neither federation could afford to lose such a bet. Everything returned to peace, and the power of night faded. The sky was still dusk, and the early spring wind was still warm. However, UAO and the Imperial Mermaid Race's members had abnormally serious expressions. At that moment, UAO was confused. The Radiance Federation's Night Empress was the one who made the first move against the Imperial Mermaid Race. How did it become the Imperial Mermaid Race breaking the Radiance Sea Treaty? UAO looked at the blood-armored man who looked similar to him and asked, "Second brother, who did our race give the fief closest to the Radiance Federation's sea region to?" The blood-armored man could not help but ask, "Second brother, who did our race give the fief closest to the Radiance Federation's sea region to?" The blood-armored man could not help but be unable to answer. End of this chapter. Chapter 1363. As one of the top 3 clans among the 8 clans of the Sea Empire, the Imperial Mermaid Clan had plenty of resources. There was absolutely no need to divide the Da Alliance's territorial waters. The man in blood-red armor had always been in charge of distributing territory to the clan members. He did not remember distributing territories near the Radiance Territorial Sea to any of his clansmen. Moreover, the Imperial Mermaid Clan had recently relocated to the vicinity of the Freedom Federation's territorial waters, and the vast majority of their clansmen had already been recalled. There shouldn't be many clansmen left outside. Suddenly, the blood-armored man Yuba thought of his third sister, Yumang. Sharkmang had always been spoiled by Big Brother. This time, the mermaid said that it did not want to come back, and Big Brother agreed without even thinking about it. Back then, when the mermaid left the tribe, he did not allocate any territory to it. As the eldest princess of the Imperial Mermaid Clan, the mermaid could go anywhere in the Imperial Mermaid Clan's territory. Could it be that the Mermaid Ray had chosen the sea region near the Radiance Federation as its territorial sea and had killed the Radiance Federation's people for some reason? Based on Tyrant Mermaid's understanding of Mermaid Mang would very likely do something like breaking the Huihai Treaty behind their backs in the face of great benefits. Seeing that the expression on Yuba's face was getting uglier and uglier, Yuao couldn't help but ask in a deep voice, "Second brother, if you think of anything, just say it. If Hui Yao is trying to put the blame on our Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids Clan, then we, the 8 clans of the Ocean Empire, will definitely teach him a lesson." Yuba shook his head when he heard this. If Hui Yao was really trying to pin the blame on the Imperial Mermaid Clan, even if many of the 8 clans of the Sea Monarch 8 clans had conflicts with the Imperial Mermaid Clan, the Imperial Mermaid Clan would not be able to do anything about it. Due to the prestige of the Sea Tribe and the overall benefits, they would definitely help the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids Clan. However, if the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids were really in the wrong first, the Radiance faction would have something to use against them. Then this matter would be difficult. The other 6 Sea Emperors who went with them were hard to say. The Sea Emperor of the Royal Ray Clan was bound to take advantage of this opportunity to suppress the Royal Mermaids and Mermaids Clan. Eventually, Yuba told Yuao about his speculation. Hearing Yuba's words, Yuao's expression changed drastically. Yuao knew that Yuba's words were probably the truth of this matter. However, Hui Yao was a little too domineering. Was there a need to make such a big fuss over the deaths of just a few ordinary people? It seemed like this trip to the Radiance sect was a little tricky. Just as Yuao was thinking about whether he should head to the Radiance sect personally, Yuba spoke up seriously. "Big brother, the Imperial Mermaid Clan is going to relocate." At this point, Tyrant Shark glanced at Du Miao and continued. The cooperation with the Freedom Federation can't be done without Big Brother. I'll go with the Radiance Federation. As one of the three major federations, the Radiance Federation still has to have the magnanimity that it should have. It won't be possible for all of them to make a move to make me stay. Hearing Mermaid Tyrant, Mermaid Ao nodded. Although Ao was not willing to let Yuba take the risk, Yuba was undoubtedly the most suitable candidate. Ao pointed at the blood-colored short-haired youth beside him and said, "Dong, or you go with your second uncle. Remember to listen to your second uncle on the way." The crimson-haired youth said hurriedly, "Father, don't worry. If second uncle tells me to go east, I will definitely not go west." Hearing Yudong's words, Ao nodded in satisfaction. However, Yuba's brows furrowed. Big Brother pushed Dong out at this time to increase Jiao Dong's prestige in the Imperial Mermaid clan by using this trip to the Radiance Federation. Big Brother wants to help Yudong up. It seems like Big Brother has not seen clearly what kind of person his son, Yudong, is. He is obedient and sensible in front of you, but he is a little tyrant when he goes out. Bring Yudong to the Radiance Federation and hope that Yudong will not cause trouble. Usually, Yudong would face the members of the other 7 clans. If he caused trouble, where would the Imperial Mermaid clan's face be? However, the people on the Radiance Federation's side would not give face to the Imperial Mermaid clan. Since Big Brother had pushed Yudong out, Yuba had no other choice. It seemed like he had to remind Yudong along the way and let him control his temper. The decree that the Radiance Federation had just issued was not only targeted at the Imperial Mermaid clan but also the other 7 clans. At that moment, apart from the Imperial Mermaid clan, the other 7 clans each had their own thoughts. They were thinking about how to discuss the Radiance Sea Treaty when they went to the Radiance Federation. At present, everyone in the Radiance Federation was looking up at that giant golden tree that was slowly shrinking and finally disappearing. Lin Yuan's current mood was very complicated. On one hand, this battle between the majesties had made Lin Yuan understand how weak he was. Only beings under the celestial phenomenon level could have a deep understanding of the power of a celestial phenomenon. If a sacred source life form was not complete, there would always be a big gap between it and the current world's pinnacle experts. His sacred source life form, Sacred Sword-wielding Queen, was only a 3-star sacred source life form. It would still take some time for it to reach 4 stars. Lin Yuan really did not know when his sacred source life form, Sacred Sword-wielding Queen, would become a complete sacred source life form. Fortunately, Lin Yuan, who had hoarded so many Law Origin crystals, was very confident. However, the Law Origin crystals in Lin Yuan's hands would be used up sooner or later. Lin Yuan still needed to find more Law Origin crystals in the future. To a certain extent, this disturbance had deepened Lin Yuan's determination to develop the swamp world and deepen the cooperation with the big cities. On the other hand, the neutral voice that had just come from the giant tree had deepened Lin Yuan's sense of belonging to the Radiance Federation. After all, the mermaid light of the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids clan attacked Ji Hao, Lu Jie, and Anha, the 3 disciples of His Holiness. However, Hui Yao did not mention His Holiness's disciple when dealing with this matter. He only said that they were people of the Radiance sect. This meant that the High Lords had always been silently protecting every living being in Hui Yao, including the ordinary people. This was Hui Yao's bearing. This was the integrity of His Majesty. This was a responsibility that could not be shouldered. It was also the Radiance Federation's promise to every Radiance Federation citizen. Such a radiance was worth protecting with all his might. The Mother of Bloodbath took a deep look at the thick sun chain that was still churning endlessly. He severed the connection between himself and the sun. Since they already knew each other, the Mother of Bloodbath was prepared to wait for its relatives to find it. After experiencing this storm and eating Lu Jie's delicacies, Lin Yuan had a good sleep in the mansion. After waking up, he acutely realized that the power of faith in his shrine had not increased much. Lin Yuan felt a little strange about this. He immediately logged onto StarWeb and looked at its forums and posts. Lin Yuan immediately understood what was going on. There were 3 main points of discussion in StarWeb's posts and forums. The first was the anomaly in yesterday's weather. The second was the dispute between the Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation. The third was the shocking bet that would be carried out at the 10,000 Nations Conference in 2 years. The popularity of these three matters was too great. It was inevitable that the popularity of any other matter would be absorbed by these three matters. End of this chapter. Chapter 1364. He knew that even if he used his identity as the Moon Empress disciple to get the Sky City Lord to give up on the Miao family's beast creation garden, it would still be useless. He had to wait for these three matters to die down before he could reveal the identity of the Moon Empress disciple. Only then would the star web masses recall the conflict between the Miao family's beast creation garden and Sky City, allowing them to snatch back the traffic that had been split. However, this matter couldn't be dragged on for too long. If it was dragged on for too long, it would lose its original heat. Therefore, he planned to wait a few days. Before he completely dealt with the Radiance Federation's matters and headed to the Divine Wood Federation, he would fulfill his promise to the Miao family's beast creation garden. However, he did not know that the Miao family's beast creation garden no longer wanted him to help. Originally, Miao Zhenshan's mood was getting more and more irritable by the day. Miao Zhenshan, who was extremely concerned about his and the Miao family's reputation in the beast creation garden, seemed to be possessed every day. Despite knowing that he was being scolded, he still went to check the star web posts and forums. Miao Zhenshan got up early in the morning and logged into star web out of habit. After logging in, Miao Zhenshan froze. What was going on? Could it be that he was seeing things? Miao Zhenshan flipped through tens of pages and realized that there was no mention of the Miao family's beast creation garden. Miao Zhenshan quickly understood that the heat had been sucked away by what happened last night. The heat from last night's incident won't die down anytime soon. During this period of time, the Miao family's beast creation garden was rarely mentioned. It could be said that the popularity of this shocking bet had helped the Miao family's beast creation garden take a bullet. Before Miao Zhenshan could be happy for long, he recalled that Lin Yuan had promised to help. With Lin Yuan's help, wouldn't this matter be stirred up again? Miao Zhenshan really wanted to call Lin Yuan and tell him that he didn't need to help anymore. However, Miao Zhenshan only dared to think about it in his heart. No matter what, he did not dare to say it out loud. If this matter was revealed, it would mean that the Miao family was toying with the Moon Empress disciple. The Moon Empress disciple was infuriated and made things difficult for the Miao clan's beast creation garden. The Miao family's beast creation garden would only end up worse. He opened the group chat and found that Gu Lang and Zhong Zhe had Ed Lu Jie to ask about yesterday's situation. Night Leaning Moon was the one who started the disturbance yesterday. Zhong Zhe, Gu Lang's master, had gone to the Radiance Imperial Court to participate in the Imperial Court's meeting early in the morning. Supreme Chef and Bamboo Monarch were also confused about what happened yesterday. Zhong Zhe and Gu Lang wanted to understand the situation, so asking Lu Jie was the best channel. Before Lin Yuan could speak in the group chat, he found that Lu Jie had already replied to Zhong Zhe and Gu Lang's messages. Lu Jie, this matter was indeed caused by the members of the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids clan in the waters of Stormy Wave City. Lu Jie, Lin Yuan and I were outside Raging Wave City at that time, but I didn't have time to tell Master about this, so I don't know the specifics. Hearing Lu Jie's reply, Long Tao, Li Xian, Sun Ningxiang, and the others popped their heads out. Because of Lin Yuan, everyone had gathered in the group and formed a faction. In addition to the gathering at Zhong Zhe's place, everyone had become friends. Zhong Zhe and Gu Lang chatted in the group, not avoiding Long Tao, Li Xian, and Sun Ningxiang. When it came to the topic of the disciples of His Holiness, Long Tao, Li Xian, and Sun Ningxiang all knew how to avoid arousing suspicion. Under normal circumstances, Long Tao, Li Xian, and Sun Ningxiang would not participate in such a topic. But now that it involved Lin Yuan and Lu Jie's safety, Long Tao, Li Xian, and Sun Ningxiang could not help it. Seeing the concern from his friends, Lin Yuan's face revealed a bright smile. Lin Yuan, thank you for your concern, everyone. Both of us are fine. Lin Yuan, that's right, where did Gao Feng go? Previously, Gao Feng was the most talkative in the group. Basically, the Dragon King in the group was Gao Feng. Every day, he would call the wind and summon the rain, disinfect the world, and be a superstar. But in the past week or two, Gao Feng almost did not send any messages in the group. Even if he did send messages, he would most likely send them at night. Lin Yuan Gao Feng, but after waiting for a long time, Gao Feng still did not reply. At that moment, Sun Ningxiang sent a message. Sun Ningxiang, Lin Yuan, Grandma and I will reach the royal capital tomorrow. My grandma has been thanking you along the way. Sun Ningxiang, do you have time tomorrow? I have something to talk to you about. Lin Yuan heard this and quickly replied. Lin Yuan, bring grandma over. I will definitely have time. Lin Yuan, I will send you my address. You can come over directly. Lin Yuan, didn't you always praise Lu Jie's cooking in the group? Tell Lu Jie what you want to eat. Lin Yuan was not overly prepared for Sun Ningxiang's arrival. Lin Yuan and Sun Ningxiang had known each other for a long time and had eaten together in private. There was no need to be so polite. When Sun Ningxiang saw Lin Yuan's reply, her expression was like the beautiful April of the human world. Lu Chan, who was beside Sun Ningxiang, saw Sun Ningxiang's expression and sighed softly. Lin Yuan had something to talk to Long Tao and Li Xian about. This matter was rather complicated and not suitable to be discussed in the group. Lin Yuan was prepared to call Long Tao and Li Xian after ending the group chat. At that moment, Gao Feng, who had been missing, appeared. Gao Feng, brothers, the Imperial Mermaid clan is simply too despicable. Gao Feng, I heard from my master that Lin Yuan, Lu Jie, and he almost died in the hands of a female expert of the Imperial Mermaid clan. Fortunately, you two are fine. Gao Feng, if something happened to you too, how would the brothers live? Gao Feng, that's right, I have been learning from master during this period. I will only be released to rest at night. Gao Feng, master is attending the Imperial Court Conference today, so I have some free time. If you guys want to find me next time, just give me a call. Otherwise, if you at me in the group, I might not be able to see you every time. When Gao Feng suddenly appeared, Lin Yuan sent a private message to Gao Feng. He asked Gao Feng to take over the Blissful Sea Tribe's territory in Raging Wave City and the distant islands outside of Raging Wave City. Lin Yuan and Gao Feng had established a new faction together, and they each had 50% of the faction's shares. They were both the owners of this faction. Compared to Lin Yuan taking over the Blissful Sea Tribe and expanding the business, it was more suitable for Gao Feng to manage the Blissful Sea Tribe. When Gao Feng saw Lin Yuan's message, he immediately thought that Lin Yuan might be Sky City's city lord. Lin Yuan did not want to hide it from Gao Feng. Lin Yuan and Gao Feng had become friends much earlier than Li Xian and Long Tao. Although Lin Yuan and Long Tao had exchanged phone numbers a long time ago, Long Tao and Lin Yuan had not interacted much at that time. Along the way, Gao Feng had helped Lin Yuan a lot. Without Gao Feng, Lin Yuan would not have been able to obtain young elemental shellfish and complete the initial resource accumulation. It was because of the initial resource accumulation that Lin Yuan was able to snowball more and more resources. It was all thanks to Gao Feng that Lin Yuan could have the foundation of Sky City, the floating island whale. Chapter 1365. At the Nix Assembly, when Gao Feng didn't know his identity, he stood on Miao Zhuo's side without hesitation. One must know that the difference between the Gao family and the Miao family, who were both top forces, was huge. The Miao family was one of the top factions in the Beast Creation Garden, while the Gao family was ranked last. If Gao Feng stood on his side, he would have to bear the risk for the family. In times of danger, it was enough to see a person clearly. At that time, Lin Yuan recognized him as a brother. Gao Feng was rather shocked to find out that Lin Yuan was the Sky City Lord, but he also felt that it was only natural. After all, Gao Feng had seen too many miracles. Since Lin Yuan had told him this information, Gao Feng naturally wouldn't leak it out. Gao Feng had always been very grateful to Lin Yuan. Without Lin Yuan and Lu Jie, he would never have become His Holiness disciple. After the private chat with Gao Feng, Lin Yuan called Long Tao. The phone rang less than 3 times before Long Tao picked it up. Long Tao was a little surprised that Lin Yuan had called him. After all, everyone had just chatted in the group. Could it be that Lin Yuan wanted to ask about the royal armored martial divine insects? During this period of time, plenty of alien insects comparable to myth-breed phase had flown out of the Class 4 alien insect dimensional rifts controlled by the coiling Dragon Valley. However, none of these insects were imperial armored martial god insects. Long Tao had no good way to deal with it. At that moment, Long Tao heard Lin Yuan speak. Big Brother Dragon, your coiled Dragon Valley has always nurtured dragon species phase. I wonder if Big Brother Dragon knows of any dragon species phase that are easy to rear and produce livers? Long Tao was startled by Lin Yuan's words. Lin Yuan's question really hit Long Tao. It was true that the coiled Dragon Valley had always focused on nurturing dragon species phase. However, the coiled Dragon Valley rarely traded in dragon-type spirit materials. Even if some dragon species spiritual ingredients leaked out, it was because these dragon species phase could not be saved by the creation masters, so they were helplessly decomposed. However, based on Lin Yuan's question, Long Tao knew that Lin Yuan should need the livers of dragon species phase. Long Tao didn't answer Lin Yuan directly and asked him instead, Brother Yuan, do you have any requirements for the dragon species phase bloodline that provides the liver? Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan considered the Golden Wing's current strength. I don't have a high requirement for bloodlines. As long as the dragon species phase are pure flood dragons or dinosaurs, it will be fine. Lin Yuan's words made Long Tao choke. Wasn't this requirement high enough? A king-class expert's contracted dragon species phase bloodline purity was at most at the level of a purebred flood dragon or a purebred dinosaur. If he wanted to raise purebred WIRM species and purebred dinosaur species phase and let them provide their livers, he would be able to do so. Long Tao couldn't imagine how much resources it would cost. Putting aside the meals, purifying a dragon species phase bloodline would require a lot of creation master resources. Most importantly, these dragon species phase were not bred to be sold to spirit chi professionals, but to be taken away. After the liver was removed, the dragon species phase were bound to die. Dead dragon species phase could only be disassembled and sold as spiritual ingredients. Even if the price of dragon species spiritual ingredients on the market was on the high side, he would never be able to recover his capital. Long Tao really knew which dragon species phase was more suitable to be raised between a pure flood dragon and a dinosaur. Furthermore, this dragon species phase was relatively large, so its liver wouldn't be small. Long Tao said to Lin Yuan, Younger brother Lin, among the purebred dinosaur phase, there is a phase called the hook-toothed behemoth dragon. The hook-toothed behemoth dragon is very easy to raise, and it grows very quickly. As long as there is a large amount of meat, it will be able to mature when it reaches the gold rank. A behemoth dragon is nearly 20 meters long and 9 meters tall. Its liver weighs at least 200 kilograms. The hook-toothed giant beast dragon has the bloodline of the ancient Tyrannosaurus. It is considered rather ferocious among the purebred dinosaur phase. The liver controls emotions. The ferocious dinosaur phase livers usually have stronger medicinal properties, so they are sold at a higher price in the spiritual ingredient market. Young brother Lin, if you want to choose a purebred dinosaur phase for its liver, the hook-toothed giant beast dragon is more suitable. Our coiling Dragon Valley has a behemoth dragon with hooked teeth. Not long ago, the curly-tusked behemoth dragon in coiling Dragon Valley died. Before it died, it left behind 6 dragon eggs. These 6 dragon eggs should have the potential to become breeding dragons. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up. Among the dragon species phase, flood dragon species phase were clean. Dinosaur phase were in heat their entire lives and would leave behind many descendants. However, dinosaur phase that were in heat for their entire lives would usually lay eggs with the best genes before they died. As a top faction, coiling Dragon Valley's choice of dragon quality was understandable. Therefore, the genes of the hook-toothed behemoth dragon in these 6 eggs must be very outstanding. He had decided to eat the hook-toothed behemoth dragon's liver in the early stages. Lin Yuan said to Long Tao, Big Brother Dragon, you said before that you wanted to establish your own emerging force to practice. Why don't we work together to nurture a rag-toothed behemoth dragon? Hearing that, Long Tao's eyes suddenly lit up. Long Tao didn't expect that Lin Yuan would take the initiative to bring him along. This was Long Tao's chance. Long Tao agreed immediately and said, "It will naturally be good if we can establish a rising faction. Moreover, it will be a rising faction established together with Brother Lin. I can only provide 1 Class 4 Creation Master and 5 Class 3 Creation Masters to nurture the hook-toothed behemoth dragon. After the hook-toothed behemoth dragon's liver is extracted, carefully divide the other parts of its body. The faction's function can be set on the dragon species' spiritual ingredients. I have experience in nurturing dragon species phase. Just leave the management, feeding, liver extraction, division, and sale to me." Long Tao's words were very open and straightforward. He spoke of his difficulties and everything he could do for the faction. Lin Yuan felt very comfortable discussing a collaboration with Long Tao. Lin Yuan said, "Big Brother Dragon, I will provide the Creation Master resources. I will have to trouble Big Brother Dragon with the other aspects." Long Tao was stunned by Lin Yuan's attitude that he didn't care about the Creation Master resources. It could be said that he was only putting in a bit of effort to establish a faction with Lin Yuan. Since Long Tao and Lin Yuan were working together, he could not take advantage of Lin Yuan for free. Therefore, he said, "Since that is the case, you will take 70% of the rising faction shares, and I will take 30%. Long Tao spoke sincerely, but when Lin Yuan heard Long Tao's words, he immediately said, "Big Brother Dragon, since we are establishing the faction together, why don't we each take 50% of the shares? In the future, my demand for the dragon liver's quality will only increase. The faction will need Big Brother Dragon's help." After Lin Yuan spoke, Long Tao still insisted on only taking 30%. Chapter 1366. In the end, it was Lin Yuan who spoke. "How about this, Big Brother Long? In the future, when I need dragon-type spiritual materials, I'll just take them from the faction. I might need a lot of dragon-type spiritual materials in the future. If we each take 50% of the shares, I might even be the one taking advantage of Big Brother Long." Long Tao only gave up after hearing Lin Yuan's words. After hanging up the phone, Long Tao hurried to prepare for the establishment of the force. Lin Yuan continued to be a hands-off boss, just like when he had established the faction with Gao Feng. After dealing with the dragon liver, all that was left was the phoenix blood. However, phoenix blood was not as easy to deal with as dragon liver. This was because he did not want to casually obtain phoenix blood from some one phoenix species phase. Instead, he wanted to obtain it from the main phoenix-type Fae. In fact, it was not that Lin Yuan had not thought of providing Gray with a main dragon species phase liver. However, he really could not afford to nurture a large number of main dragon species phase for their livers. According to his current situation, he had no choice but to lower his expectations. Extracting phoenix blood was different from extracting essence blood. It would not cause too much harm to the main phoenix-type Fae. At most, the main phoenix-type Fae would be weakened for a period of time if too much phoenix blood was extracted. Therefore, it was possible for him to obtain the main phoenix species phase blood. As for the channel to obtain the main phoenix species phase blood, he could only think of Li Yun birdcage. Previously, he had traded a bunch of golden lotus brocade plants with Li Yun avian niche and maintained a friendly relationship with her. It was also because of this transaction that Li Xian was chosen as the young patriarch among the many Li Yun Niokeng of the younger generation. If he wanted to trade the phoenix blood with Li Yun avian cage, he would not contact her directly. Lin Yuan planned to find Li Xian as a middleman and let him talk to the elders who had main phoenix species phase. Lin Yuan called Li Xian. After the call was connected, Lin Yuan didn't bother to exchange pleasantries with Li Xian. "Brother Li, I need your help." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Li Xian quickly replied enthusiastically. "Brother Lin, if there's anything you need help with, just tell me. If I can do it, I'll do it immediately. If I can't do it, I'll find a way to create the conditions." Li Xian had always been grateful to Lin Yuan. If it wasn't for Lin Yuan, Li Xian would have had to make a move on his siblings in order to become Li Yun Niao Can's young family head. 2 years ago, Li Xian's younger siblings had grown up to 15 or 16 years old. He wanted to seize power from Li Xian, both openly and secretly. Li Xian was very clear about this, but he had always been hesitant about whether or not he should do anything. Just as Li Xian couldn't take it anymore and was about to defend his position in the clan, Lin Yuan's appearance made the clan's elders' council make a decision, so that Li Xian wouldn't have to act against his sisters-in-law anymore. Li Xian had always believed that Lin Yuan had not only helped him raise his status in the clan but had also redeemed his conscience. Given Lin Yuan's status, Li Xian could not think of anything that he could repay Lin Yuan for. Now that Lin Yuan had taken the initiative to seek his help, he finally had a chance. Upon hearing Li Xian's words, Lin Yuan replied with a smile. "Brother Li, there should be quite a number of main phoenix-type fays in your dawn cloud bird nest, right?" Li Xian didn't know why Lin Yuan would ask this. However, since Lin Yuan had asked, Li Xian answered truthfully. "The basic qualification for our dawn cloud bird nest to join the Elders' Council is to have a main phoenix-type fae. There are over 40 people in the Elders' Council, and there should be at least 50 main phoenix-type fays." Upon hearing Li Xian's words, Lin Yuan was delighted. With 50 main phoenix-type fays providing phoenix blood, it would be enough for the Golden Wing to grow into a myth breed. As long as he could reach an agreement with Dawn Cloud Bird Nest, he wouldn't need to worry about the source of the main phoenix-type phase blood for a long time. It was really not a bad idea to make a public announcement. It was worth it. After all, one could save the book and read it offline. "Brother Li, I want to ask for your help this time. I need a large amount of main phoenix-type phase blood from the phase of your Dawn Cloud Bird Nest's elders." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Li Xian's throat moved, and he swallowed his saliva violently. For a moment, he didn't know how to respond. It could be said that Lin Yuan's request had frightened Li Xian. Li Xian couldn't imagine if he told the Elders' Council to let out the blood of his main phoenix-type fae. What would the Elders' Council's expression be like? He might even lose his position as the young patriarch. However, he had just told Lin Yuan to do it immediately if he could. If he couldn't, he would think of ways to create the conditions to do it. This caused Li Xian to feel awkward. Lin Yuan did not let Li Xian feel awkward for too long. After Lin Yuan said that, he immediately said, "That's right. Big Brother Li, you should need the Phoenix Nirvana flower to cultivate a Phoenix-type fae, right? If I say that I can provide a Phoenix Nirvana flower for those main Phoenix-type fays every time they collect their blood, I wonder if Big Brother Li can use this condition to negotiate with the Elder Council." Upon hearing that, Li Xian finally heaved a sigh of relief. Right now, in the Dawn Cloud Bird Nest, the elders were fighting fiercely over what spirit materials they were fighting over. Without a doubt, it was the Phoenix Nirvana flower. The Nirvana Phoenix flower was a plant fae that could activate a phoenix species phase bloodline to a large extent. The Phoenix Nirvana flower's effect was similar to the Dragon's Mouth Orchid, which could enhance the bloodline of dragon species phase. However, compared to the Dragon Snake Orchid, the Nirvana Phoenix flower was undoubtedly more difficult to cultivate. If the Nirvana Phoenix flower wanted to reach a certain level of quality, just like the Dragon Snake Orchid, it needed pure spirit energy. However, compared to the Dragon Snake Orchid, the Black Phoenix flower required more fire elemental energy. As a result, the price of the Nirvana Phoenix flower was 1.5 times that of the Dragon's Mouth Orchid. If Lin Yuan could take out the Phoenix Nirvana flower, the elders in the clan would be willing to sacrifice their main phoenix species Fey bloodline. They would be very willing to trade with him. Before Li Xian could agree, he heard Lin Yuan say, "Don't worry. Big Brother Li, if you don't have enough epic Phoenix Nirvana flowers, I still have Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearls that you can use to trade." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Li Xian hurriedly replied, "Brother Lin, the Nirvana Phoenix flower is enough. I'm confident that I can convince the elders in the clan. I'll be able to reply to Brother Lin soon." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded. Lin Yuan currently did not have the Phoenix Nirvana flower. Similar to the Dragon Snake Orchid, the Phoenix Nirvana flower rarely appeared on the market and was extremely difficult to buy. Lin Yuan had the confidence to take out a large number of phoenix nirvana flowers to trade with the dawn cloud bird nest's elders because he had gone to the Miao family's beast creation garden's underground treasury previously. Lin Yuan had found dozens of phoenix nirvana flowers in the Miao family's beast creation garden's treasury. Although most of these phoenix nirvana flowers had not reached epic, Lin Yuan did not mind. As long as he used this opportunity to help the Miao family's beast creation garden to obtain those phoenix nirvana flowers, Lin Yuan could easily raise these phoenix nirvana flowers' quality to epic. He could even pick some high-quality ones and raise them to legend. Chapter 1367. The Nirvana Phoenix Flower was planted in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. If the roots of the Nirvana Phoenix Flower were not injured, new Nirvana Phoenix flowers could be grown very quickly. After hanging up the phone, Li Xian took the initiative to convene the elders for the first time as the young family head. To put it bluntly, the elders had chosen Li Xian as the young patriarch because they had taken a fancy to his relationship with Lin Yuan. The younger generation members that the elders supported were different, and their interests were intertwined. Even though Li Xian was now the young family head, he still could not get the approval of all the elders. Li Xian planned to take this opportunity to completely build a cooperative relationship with the elders. Ever since he had established a faction with Lin Yuan, Zhong Zhe, Gu Lang, and the others, Li Xian's position in the clan had become more stable. Using this matter, Li Xian felt that his reputation in Li Yun bird niche should be the #1 person under the clan head. This time, it was Lin Yuan who had asked for his help, but Li Xian knew that he owed Lin Yuan even more. If Lin Yuan only needed the blood of a main phoenix species Fei, he just needed to take the Nirvana Phoenix Flower and post an exchange on Star Web. Those experts with main phoenix species Feis would definitely be willing to exchange. Apart from this exchange itself, Lin Yuan's continuous provision of Nirvana Phoenix flowers to Li Yun bird niche. It was equivalent to taking the initiative to help Li Yun bird niche increase its strength and strengthen its foundation. Li Xian planned to tell all the elders of Li Yun Niaocan about this. Let the entire Li Yun bird niche admire Lin Yuan's kindness. On this day, Lin Yuan sorted out the harvest in Shocking Wave City. As a pinnacle immortal sea emperor, the mother of bloodbath had absorbed the blood energy in its body after its death. It could no longer let Red Thorn control it through the tongue of relinquish. There were still plenty of spiritual materials left behind. Among them, the relatively intact shark skin could be left for Wen Yu to make a few sets of clothes. The shark skin was soft and weightless, but it had extremely strong defensive properties. In addition, the reverse scales on the skin could reduce wind resistance and severely injure the opponent when colliding with the reverse scales. After the shark Mang died, Lin Yuan also obtained an object that looked like a figurine from its body. Lin Yuan knew that this might be what his master, the Moon Empress, had mentioned before, the immortal body in the undying species Fei. Let me interrupt. The app that I've been using recently supports both Android and Apple phones. The immortal body was essentially a transformation of willpower runes. The willpower rune, law crystal, world crystal, and immortal body were all related to the phase quality. When Lin Yuan had obtained the immortal body, he had noticed that the princess in his soul spirit was throbbing. It was as if he had seen a rare treasure. However, when the princess saw the immortal body, she was not as impatient as she was when she saw the world crystal. Lin Yuan communicated with the princess through their souls and knew that she was unable to absorb the immortal body before the growth period. The growth period referred to the sacred source life form stage from 7 to 9 stars. It seemed like the immortal body in the industrial mermaid's body was another immovable property, and Lin Yuan needed to store it for a period of time. Mermaid Mang's undying body contained a part of his soul. Through Morbius Silver Spirit-Locked Remembrance Soul Whale, Lin Yuan was fully capable of condensing Shark Mang's soul from its immortal body. However, Lin Yuan obviously would not do so. In fact, ever since he had obtained the Remembrance Soul Whale, he had wondered if he could resurrect his parents. But his parents were humans, and not only were their souls not strong enough. After death, their souls would easily dissipate. Lin Yuan knew that his parents had died in the alien insect dimensional rift, and their bodies had probably been torn to pieces by the alien insects. The only things left behind by his parents were the 2 spirit guard badges and the blood-stained letter. The 2 spirit guard badges and the blood-stained letter were like Lin Yuan's entrustment. Looking at the 2 badges and the letter, Lin Yuan could always think of his parents. It was as if his parents were still by his side. For the first time, Lin Yuan felt timid and did not dare to let the Remembrance Soul Whale examine the 2 badges and the letter. Even though Lin Yuan already had an answer in his heart, sometimes people liked to lie to themselves. He hoped for a fluke. After thinking about it again and again, Lin Yuan, who had gathered his courage countless times, still decided to take out the 2 spirit guard badges and the blood-stained letter that his parents had left behind. He nervously summoned the Remembrance Soul Whale and carefully placed the 2 badges and the letter in front of the Remembrance Soul Whale. In the end, the answer was as cold as Lin Yuan had expected. Yesterday's battle with the High Lords and the words that came from the giant golden tree made Lin Yuan understand more deeply the meaning of radiance. Now that he looked at the 2 spirit guard badges, Lin Yuan suddenly understood why his parents had known the danger back then. They had still left him and Chu Ci at home and rushed to that battle to uphold the responsibility of radiance. When Lin Yuan had first received the 2 spirit guard badges, he had been puzzled. But now Lin Yuan completely understood. This was because he and the Moon Empress had chosen to embark on the same path as his parents. Chapter 1368. The 3 Mountain River Eternal Life Carps had been nurtured by Lin Yuan since they were young. Fish phase did not have high intelligence, but the 3 Mountain River Eternal Life Carps were exceptionally close to Lin Yuan. After accompanying Lin Yuan by the hidden WRM lake for a long time, the 3 Mountain River Eternal Life Carps swung their tails and started to swim in the hidden WRM lake. The 3 Mountain River Eternal Life Carps had an exclusive skill, Place of Life. They entered the hidden Dragon Lake and went to the Angelfish of Bliss. Even the shining Sun King Lotus and the rare flowers planted in the 100 pavilions were happily stretching their branches and leaves. Looking at the beautiful scenery he had created, Lin Yuan let out a breath of turbid air that he had been suppressing in his heart. All of a sudden, Lin Yuan entered a mysterious state. Creativity can make people happy. A willpower rune full of the meaning of creation appeared in his mind. Lin Yuan was naturally happy to comprehend a new willpower rune. However, this willpower rune was clearly not suitable for the whale. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard the crisp cry of a bird coming from the mansion's entrance. Lin Yuan looked at the mansion's entrance and noticed that Sun Ningxiang had arrived. Beside Sun Ningxiang was a woman who was about the same height as Sun Ningxiang. This woman's facial features were somewhat similar to Sun Ningxiang's. Lin Yuan knew that Sun Ningxiang's parents had passed away. This woman should be Sun Ningxiang's grandmother, Lu Chan, an emperor-level powerhouse. Lin Yuan hurriedly walked forward and prepared to welcome Sun Ningxiang and Lu Chan into the house. As a result, when Lin Yuan arrived at the entrance of the mansion, before he could even speak to Sun Ningxiang had already arrived. Lu Chan knelt on one knee and said solemnly to Lin Yuan, "I am Lu Chan. Thank you for saving my life. Thank you for using the Lunar Dew Revival Pill to save my life." Upon seeing that Lu Chan was about to kowtow and thank him, Lin Yuan hurriedly reached out to hold her arm and help her up from the ground. Lin Yuan and Sun Ningxiang were friends, and Sun Ningxiang's grandmother was thanking him. Lin Yuan really could not bear it. When he had saved Lu Chan, he had not thought about the value of the Moon Dew Revival Pill. In retrospect, Lin Yuan did not regret using a Lunar Dew Revival Pill to save Lu Chan's life. Lin Yuan had the ability to not save his friend's family. When Sun Ningxiang saw that Lu Chan was still preparing to thank Lin Yuan, she was afraid that Lin Yuan would be put in a difficult position. Sun Ningxiang gently held Lu Chan's arm. Sun Ningxiang and Lin Yuan had not seen each other for a long time, but the last time she had seen him in the extreme arena, he had been wearing a mask. Sun Ningxiang didn't notice any changes in Lin Yuan. Sun Ningxiang couldn't help but be stunned when she saw Lin Yuan's exquisite facial features and increasingly elegant temperament. When Lu Chan noticed that Sun Ningxiang had lost her composure, she gently moved her arm. Only then did Sun Ningxiang regain her senses. Sun Ningxiang, who had returned to her senses, blushed and lowered her head, not daring to look at Lin Yuan's face. He did not notice the change in Sun Ningxiang's expression. Lin Yuan had been hoping that Lu Chan would stop kowtowing. After exchanging a few pleasantries with Lu Chan, Lin Yuan led Sun Ningxiang and Lu Chan to the main mansion. As soon as she arrived at the main residence and sat on the sofa, Sun Ningxiang decided to explain everything to Lin Yuan first. Lin Yuan was pouring 3 treasures tea for Sun Ningxiang and Lu Chan and had yet to fill up Sun Ningxiang's teacup. Sun Ningxiang said, "Lin Yuan, our Dew Immortal Garden wants to attach to Sky City from today onwards. We will become a branch faction of Sky City like the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce." Lin Yuan didn't look happy when he heard Sun Ningxiang's words. Instead, he frowned. Lin Yuan felt that Sun Ningxiang had made such a decision because she was grateful that he had saved Lu Chan. If Lin Yuan and Sun Ningxiang were not friends, Lin Yuan would be very willing for Sun Ningxiang to do this to thank him. However, Lin Yuan now regarded Sun Ningxiang as a good friend. Sun Ningxiang's actions made Lin Yuan feel that Sun Ningxiang was materializing their relationship too much. Thus, Lin Yuan asked Sun Ningxiang seriously, "Did you decide to let the Dew Immortal Garden attach to Sky City to express your gratitude? If it's to express your gratitude, you don't have to do this. If you really want to return the favor of this Lunar Dew Life Recovery Pill, wait for the Dew Immortal Garden to develop for a period of time and accumulate enough resources. Then, you can return it to me with equivalent resources." Sun Ningxiang shook her head gently. Sun Ningxiang had indeed made this decision to thank Lin Yuan. However, Sun Ningxiang, as the decision-maker of a peak force, was not so one-sided. When Sun Ningxiang made this decision, it was also for the sake of the entire Dew Congealing Immortal Garden. The Dew Immortal Garden was attached to Sky City, fulfilling Sun Ningxiang's wish to thank Lin Yuan. It would also affect the future development of the Dew Congealing Immortal Garden. Even if Lu Chan's body had recovered, there was only one Emperor-level expert in the Dew Immortal Garden. The Creation Master's resources and martial strength were all cut off. Such a Dew Congealing Immortal Garden would find it hard to develop further. Sun Ningxiang said after sorting out her thoughts. The Dew Immortal Garden is now relying on Sky City to provide Creation Master resources. Without Sky City, the Dew Immortal Garden's plant-type Fey function will instantly collapse. Relying on Sky City is a way out for our Dew Congealing Immortal Garden. Lin Yuan, if you think that our Dew Immortal Garden is alright, then accept it. From now on, Grandma and I can focus on developing the Dew Congealing Immortal Garden. We don't need to rack our brains for the schemes of other factions. Just think of it as our Dew Congealing Immortal Garden wanting to rely on a big tree. Hearing Sun Ningxiang's words, Lu Chan's heart turned sour. He felt that his granddaughter Sun Ningxiang's words were a little too humble. It was clearly to express its gratitude, but it was afraid that Lin Yuan would not agree to accept the Dew Immortal Garden. Therefore, it even said something like, backing a big tree. Lu Chan understood her granddaughter's maiden feelings. However, when Lu Chan saw Lin Yuan for the first time and saw his clean eyes, she couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. Lu Chan knew that Lin Yuan did not have such thoughts. It was no wonder that the Moon Empress disciple would strive for the Radiance Envoy's position in 2 years. How could his mind be clouded by lust? When Lin Yuan heard Sun Ningxiang's words, he looked at her and pondered. Just as Lin Yuan was muttering to himself, Sun Ningxiang said, "Don't worry. Lin Yuan, if Sky City doesn't accept the Dew Immortal Garden, I might as well let the Dew Immortal Garden fall from a top faction to a veteran faction. Then, sell all the cultivation bases in the Dew Immortal Garden to Sky City. We are old friends. We are friends. You won't refuse to take over our Dew Immortal Garden's spirit plant cultivation bases, which are priced at 1/5 of the market price, right?" Upon hearing Sun Ningxiang's words, Lin Yuan shook his head helplessly. "Since you've said this, from today onwards, the Dew Immortal Garden will be the second independent faction under Sky City. I won't ask about the Dew Immortal Garden's development. The Dew Immortal Garden only needs to report to Wen Yu. just like the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. End of this chapter. Chapter 1369. After saying that, Lin Yuan pondered for a moment before continuing. As a greeting gift for Du Immortal Garden joining Sky City, I will provide Du Immortal Garden with 2,000 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls of various elements, 300 bronze/epic phase, 10 bronze/legend phase, 500 pieces of mid-grade swamp soil, and 50 pieces of high-grade swamp soil. Lin Yuan's calm words shocked Lu Chan and Sun Ningxiang. At that moment, Lu Chan and Sun Ningxiang only had one thought in their minds. They had decided to let Du Immortal Garden join Sky City. Were they repaying the favor or speculating? Lin Yuan had invested too many resources into Du Immortal Garden. When Lin Yuan had cooperated with Du Immortal Garden previously, he had been providing bronze/epic phase to Du Immortal Garden. It was the investment of these bronze/epic phase that had allowed Du Immortal Garden to turn around its declining trend without a Class 4 creation master. With just these remaining grassroots personnel, Du Immortal Garden's plant phase market share had increased by 3 percentage points. After all, Du Immortal Garden and Sky City had maintained a cooperation for such a long time, but they had not exchanged for 300 bronze/epic phase. If the bronze/epic phase that Lin Yuan had invested in Sky City were all production-type spirit plants. By relying on these bronze/epic spirit plants as main plants to cultivate, Du Immortal Garden could occupy more of the plant phase in the market. Moreover, Lin Yuan had just promised not only 300 bronze/epic phase. There were also 10 bronze/legend phase. In order to save Lu Chan, Sun Ningxiang had desperately searched for bronze/legend muscle revitalizing camellia, but she could not find it. It could be seen how precious bronze/legend spirit plants were. The Du Immortal Garden had accumulated less than 20 stalks of bronze/legend quality spirit herbs over the past 100 years. Lin Yuan's provision of bronze/legend spirit plants was equivalent to expanding Du Immortal Garden's high-end spirit plant market share by 1/3. This was something that Sun Ningxiang and Lu Chan could not imagine before. Moreover, Lin Yuan had provided Du Immortal Garden with far more precious resources. The price of 2,000 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls was higher than the total value of 300 bronze/epic phase and 10 bronze/legend phase. Heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls were exclusive to Class 4 creation masters. The Du Immortal Garden had to use all kinds of elements to nurture plant phase. After the incident that had caused a large number of creation masters to leave the Du Immortal Garden, Sun Ningxiang would have to spend some effort to obtain ordinary elemental pearls. Now that Lin Yuan had invested 2,000 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls, Sun Ningxiang and Lu Chan were stunned. He felt like he was in a dream. In order to nurture plant-type phase, soil was the foundation. When the Du Immortal Garden nurtured plant-type phase, it always had high requirements for the soil. This caused the quality of the plant phase that the Du Immortal Garden put on the market to be higher than the other factions that specialized in plant phase. The secret of Du Congealing Immortal Garden's good soil was that it was not stingy with its swamp soil. The use of the swamp soil allowed the Du Immortal Garden to accumulate an excellent reputation over the years. However, after the incident at the Du Congealing Immortal Garden, Sun Ningxiang no longer had enough resources to add more swamp soil to the cultivation base. This caused many consumers to realize that the quality of the plant species phase that the Du Immortal Garden had put on the market in the past few months was not as good as before. This caused Du Congealing Immortal Garden to face a crisis of public opinion in the market. Now that Lin Yuan had invested so much mid-grade swamp soil and high-grade swamp soil, the quality of the plant species phase that the Du Immortal Garden put on the market would only get better. This caused the crisis of public opinion that the Du Immortal Garden was facing to collapse. If Lin Yuan really invested so many resources into the Du Immortal Garden, Sun Ningxiang was confident that she could increase the Du Immortal Garden's plant phase market share from 30% to 50% in a very short time. When the Du Immortal Garden's plant phase market share reached more than 50%, the Du Immortal Garden would truly monopolize the Radiance Federation's plant Fey market. At that time, no matter what the other factions that specialized in plant Feys did, they would no longer be able to shake the Du Immortal Garden's position. The only way to continue to develop was to cooperate with the Du Immortal Garden. At that time, the Du Immortal Garden could use some means to continue to integrate the market resources. It would gradually expand the plant Phase market share of 50%. It could be said that Lin Yuan's words made Sun Ningxiang see a beautiful future. Sun Ningxiang increasingly felt that Lin Yuan's shoulder was a warm harbor that people could not help but want to rest on. However, Lin Yuan had just consumed a Moon Dew revival pill to save her grandmother and had saved her and the Du Immortal Garden from danger many times. She was here to thank him and repay his kindness. But now, Lin Yuan was going to invest so many resources into the Du Immortal Garden. Where did her kindness go? Without considering from the perspective of kindness, just from the perspective of cooperation. The Du Immortal Garden had just been incorporated into Sky City and had yet to make any contributions to Sky City. As the saying went, one should not receive a reward without pains, let alone such a massive amount of resources. Lu Chan looked at Sun Ningxiang with a complicated expression and then at Lin Yuan. At first glance, Lu Chan thought that Sun Ningxiang had fallen in love with him because of his appearance and temperament. Such a young man with such good looks and temperament was simply too attractive to women. But now, it was obvious that it was not as simple as his appearance and temperament. Lin Yuan had a terrifying ability to make money, was decisive, and was someone who could do great things. There was only one possibility for a woman not to be tempted by such resources. That was no heart. When Lin Yuan saw Sun Ningxiang's conflicted expression, he did not immediately agree. Lin Yuan replied with a chuckle. I'm not providing these resources to the Du Congealing Immortal Garden for free. I have a request for the Du Congealing Immortal Garden. After obtaining these resources, I hope that the Du Immortal Garden will be able to expand the spirit plant breeding base and strive to ensure that every plant Fey can satisfy the market's demand. Also, stock up on plant Feys that require a lot of daily consumption in case of emergencies. When Sun Ningxiang heard that Lin Yuan was going to make a request, she had thought that he would ask her to seize as much market share as possible. Unexpectedly, Lin Yuan did not request for this. The Du Immortal Garden had at least 2,000 spirit herb cultivation bases. These spirit plant cultivation bases were chosen in the best areas of the Radiance sect's major cities. This was the investment that Du Immortal Garden had made when Sun Ningxiang's grandfather was still alive. Each of the 2,000 or so spirit plant cultivation bases had dozens of outsourced cultivation bases. These spirit plant breeding bases were the reason why the Du Immortal Garden was able to monopolize the plant-type phase in the market. However, even with so many spirit plant breeding bases, it was obviously not enough to meet Lin Yuan's request. It's almost the new year. I'll strive to give you 10 consecutive updates before February. Treat it as a New Year's benefit. I hope everyone can support button. End of this chapter. Chapter 1370. In Sun Ningxiang's opinion, Lin Yuan's request for the Du Immortal Garden did not seem like a business investment. Instead, Lin Yuan wanted to use the Du Immortal Garden for something. She thought of the conflict between Chief Guard Knight and the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids yesterday. Sun Ningxiang's heart trembled as she thought of a possibility. Lin Yuan, you asked the Du Immortal Garden to stockpile plant fair-related resources in preparation for war? Lin Yuan nodded upon hearing that. That was indeed what Lin Yuan was thinking. The lava that had fallen from the sky yesterday had let Lin Yuan know how destructive a war was to a city. Once an expert used a meteorological phenomenon to carry out a destructive attack on a city during a war, many existing facilities and places would be instantly paralyzed. At that time, there must be enough resource reserves to be able to withstand the current predicament. Lin Yuan wanted to make this kind of preparation. That's right. In the process of stockpiling resources, the Du Immortal Garden's ranking among the top factions will not have an obvious improvement. On the contrary, I hope that the Du Immortal Garden can remain silent and bide its time. Do your best to start accumulating plant-related resources. The process of accumulation will consume a lot of resources, which I will provide to the Immortal garden. Lin Yuan had previously thought that he had the soldier food radishes. He would rely on these soldier food radishes and nurture them. It would be enough to support the food consumption of a large number of people. In fact, when the soldier food radishes were planted to a certain extent, it would not be a problem for Lin Yuan to support the entire Radiance people's food supply. However, what had happened yesterday had made Lin Yuan realize that he had thought everything too simply. Food was a necessity, but in addition to food, people also needed many other things to survive. If he did not prepare these things first and something special happened, he would immediately fall into a passive state. Plant phase were the producers of the entire ecosystem. He would preserve the base of plant phase and stockpile plant-related resources. No matter what happened in the future, Lin Yuan would have the confidence to deal with it. In fact, the Radiance Federation had a department that specialized in stockpiling resources. This department was the one that used revival soil to trade Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls in Lin Yuan's purchase with no loss star web store. Just like the Spirit Guards, Gung Garden also had a majesty guarding it. This eminence was one of the Radiance Federation's 13 eminences, Tian Feng. It was not that Lin Yuan did not believe in the plantation's resource reserves, but he had always liked to plan ahead. In any case, Lin Yuan's Spirit Lock Spatial Zone was a treasure vault that could continuously harvest a large number of resources without any investment. With the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, he could afford it. When Sun Ningxiang heard his words, she immediately knew what she could do for him. Sun Ningxiang's heart was suddenly filled with enthusiasm. Lin Yuan, I asked the Immortal Garden to submit to Sky City, but I never thought of raising its ranking among the top factions. Tomorrow, Grandma and I will announce to the public that the Immortal Garden will begin its seclusion. From now on, the Immortal Garden will focus on hoarding plant-type related resources. If I need anything in the future, I won't hold back. I'll tell you immediately. Strive to maximize the speed of resource storage. It's just that most of the good lands suitable for building spirit plant cultivation bases have been purchased by the various major powers. The remaining lands will more or less need to be transformed. When Lin Yuan heard Sun Ningxiang's words, his heart stirred. The Radiance Federation did not have much land suitable for farming, but the swamp world had plenty of them. Lin Yuan was now occupying the Nether Scorpion Apostles' territory, which was slightly smaller than Radiance's large cities. Even though a large part of this land was a swamp, given his current ability, he could easily deal with it. It was not difficult to build a path in the swamp world. The entire territory was guarded by Bai Yen, who could guarantee its safety. He could open up a vast area in this territory and build spirit plant breeding bases to make use of the territory. However, those who came to work in the territory had to voluntarily avoid the world. At that thought, Lin Yuan said to Sun Ningxiang, Sun Ningxiang, I have land that is suitable for building a Fey breeding base, but the people working on this land have to go into seclusion. As an allowance for them to live in seclusion, I can give them 10 times the treatment they get when they work outside. We can also let these people move their families to this land. How many of such people can you find in the Dew Condensation Immortal Garden? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Sun Ningxiang immediately replied without thinking. You can find a bunch of such people in the Dew Condensation Immortal Garden. Most of the people working in the Fey breeding base are ordinary people or some spirit chi professionals who don't have any combat ability. These people work 6 hours a day, for shifts, and their monthly income is about 4,000 Federation dollars. If I can increase their salary by 10 times and increase it to 40,000 Federation dollars a month, there shouldn't be anyone who will refuse. At that point, Sun Ningxiang had a lot of things to say to Lin Yuan. However, she did not know what to say in the end. In Sun Ningxiang's eyes, Lin Yuan was His Majesty's disciple, the Sky City Lordess, and he had countless resources in his hands. It was impossible for Lin Yuan to understand the hardships of ordinary people. In fact, as a direct descendant of a top faction, Sun Ningxiang should not understand the hardships of ordinary people. Sun Ningxiang understood so much because her grandfather had arranged for her to train in the dew condensation medical center for a period of time when she was young. During this period, Sun Ningxiang, a young lady of a top faction, had seen the life of ordinary people in the secular world. Lin Yuan nodded when he heard Sun Ningxiang's words. What Sun Ningxiang did not know was that Lin Yuan had worked harder than these ordinary people in the Fey breeding base. He had dragged his sickly body to maintain a small Fey store. With Auntie Zhang's care, Lin Yuan could only earn 2,000 Federation dollars a month. At that time, Lin Yuan had used 300 Federation dollars to fill his stomach and 200 Federation dollars to occasionally help Genius and Chimey improve their meals. As for the remaining 1,500 Federation dollars, Lin Yuan had been carefully saving them so that Chu Ci could complete her studies. No one knew the hardships of survival better than Lin Yuan. Upon hearing Sun Ningxiang's words, Lin Yuan emphasized, "Then help me choose some people. When choosing people, you must emphasize seclusion. The seclusion will be for life." Sun Ningxiang was slightly startled when she heard Lin Yuan's words. Seclusion was fine. It would not be a problem to seclude for 8 to 10 years. However, seclusion for life was a little too long. Lin Yuan had his own considerations. He could not confirm the loyalty of these people who had been selected to work in the Swamp World's Fey plant breeding base. Therefore, if he wanted the Swamp World situation not to be leaked, the best way was to let these people live in the Swamp World forever. Chapter 1371. He would definitely not mistreat these people. He could promise high-quality bronze Feys and a bright future to those spirit craftsmen working in the Swamp World. However, to ordinary people who couldn't become spirit chi professionals, high-quality bronze Feys weren't very attractive. Therefore, he intended to improve their living standards. Just as Sun Ningxiang was about to ask if there were any other requirements apart from seclusion, Lin Yuan stopped her. Lin Yuan said, "For these people who live in seclusion, they will be given 10 boxes of all kinds of spirit fruits that can improve their physical qualities and 15 kilograms of various kinds of meat every month. There will be spirit craftsmen who will specially build standalone houses that are around 200 square meters. The rooms will be equipped with jasmine lilies and other household fays. We will also arrange for healing class spirit chi professionals to treat illnesses for free." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Sun Ningxiang felt that such seclusion was simply a blessing for ordinary people. Those who worked in Fey breeding bases had very small social circles. Other than working hard to make a living, he spent most of his time with his family. What these people wanted the most was a stable and comfortable life. Putting aside the tenfold salary that Lin Yuan was offering, just the living conditions that he was offering were enough to tempt anyone. In the Radiance Federation, those people in the Fey breeding base would struggle for their entire lives. They might not even be able to live in a 200 square meter detached house. "Lin Yuan, I will handle this matter as soon as possible. How many people do you want to choose?" Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan pondered for a moment before replying, "That's right. The area I've designated is about 2,000 square kilometers. Look at how many people are needed for such a large Fey breeding base. Just recruit as many people as you need." When Sun Ningxiang heard Lin Yuan's words, she was a little surprised at the area that Lin Yuan reported. Such a large area was comparable to a county under a large city. Such a large area would require a lot of manpower, at least 100,000 people. Lin Yuan and Sun Ningxiang were straightforward people, and they settled the matter in a few words. Lu Chan, who had been listening to Lin Yuan and Sun Ningxiang's discussion, blinked her eyes when she saw that they had finished their discussion. When Lu Chan was young, she often represented the dew condensation Immortal garden to discuss cooperation with other forces. Every time they discussed cooperation, both sides would strive to maximize their own benefits. They did not give in to each other and schemed back and forth. Lin Yuan and Sun Ningxiang seemed to have a tacit understanding when discussing matters. Or it could be said that in order to achieve his goal, he simply did not care about the investment of resources. Lu Chan had previously thought of letting Sun Ningxiang fight for a spot in the Radiance Knights Legion. However, Sun Ningxiang's eyes were filled with vigor as she thought about how to complete the mission that Lin Yuan had given her. Under such circumstances, how could Sun Ningxiang still have the mood to improve her strength and attack the Radiant Light Knights? Now that Sun Ningxiang was closer to Lin Yuan, their friendship might continue to deepen. But if this continued, the love between the two of them would undoubtedly become even more distant. As an experienced person, Lu Chan could see everything clearly. However, Lu Chan did not know how to tell Sun Ningxiang about these things. In the end, Lu Chan sighed. Forget it, the younger generation will have their own blessings. This matter was related to the Moon Empress disciple, and even if his old bones wanted to worry about it, he wasn't qualified. At this time, Lu Jie had already served the dishes. Ever since the mother of bloodbath saw the thick sun chain, it had been in a complicated mood. In order to let the mother of bloodbath change its mood, Lin Yuan simply let it go to the popular shops with the group members that it had met in the gourmet group. At this time, the mother of bloodbath was not in the mansion. Thus, only Lin Yuan, Lu Jie, Sun Ningxiang, and Lu Chan ate this lunch together. Lu Jie cooked the dishes that Sun Ningxiang had ordered, and Sun Ningxiang had specially taken care of Lu Chan's taste when ordering. When Lu Chan and Sun Ningxiang were eating, they almost swallowed their tongues into their stomachs. After the meal, Lu Chan and Sun Ningxiang did not stay for long and were ready to deal with the follow-up matters. The Du Immortal Garden was integrated into Sky City, and Sun Ningxiang had to complete Lin Yuan's mission again. For a long time in the future, Lu Chan and Sun Ningxiang would be busy. Just as Lin Yuan and Lu Jie were talking about the Divine Wood Federation's development after the meal, in the Radiance Royal Court, Mystic Moon was in a dilemma. This was the first time Mystic Moon was participating in the Imperial Court Conference. Mystic Moon, who had become eternal, had the qualifications to become a holiness. Although Mystic Moon was currently the Moon Empress Moon Envoy, there was no way to pass Mystic Moon's test. However, Mystic Moon's strength allowed her to speak on equal terms with the Majesties. But now, Xian Yu, who was attending the Imperial Court Assembly for the first time, was completely embarrassed. This was because Xian Yu knew that the Moon Empress had contracted the longevity rat and resolved her predicament. To put it bluntly, as long as the Moon Empress subordinates didn't kill the longevity essence rats, the Moon Empress lifespan would be much longer than the High Lords. Xian Yu had guessed that Night-Leaning Moon would attack the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids not only because of Lu Jie. It was very likely that it had more to do with knowing that the Moon Empress was only left with 3 years of lifespan. Xian Yu was right. Since the beginning of the royal court meeting, apart from that old man, His Highness Cicada Cry, and Ji Changdeng, who had yet to return to Hui Yao, there was no one else. The other sovereigns all asked Night-Leaning Moon what was going on. Night-Leaning Moon didn't explain the reason, but things had developed to this point, so there was no way to hide it. In the end, under the questioning gazes of the 7 Majesties, Cicada Cry could only helplessly explain the situation. It would have been better if he did not explain the situation, but once he did, the entire Imperial Court Assembly exploded. It was especially so for the Bamboo Monarch, who owed the Moon Empress a favor. He immediately expressed that he wanted to travel and search for spiritual ingredients that could extend his lifespan. This made Mystic Moon rather touched as she knew that the Bamboo Monarch was truly indebted to the Moon Empress. He thanked the Moon Empress from the bottom of his heart. However, as a Moon Envoy, Mystic Moon couldn't reveal the fact that the Moon Empress lifespan had recovered without the Moon Empress permission. At that moment, Chef Supreme, who knew that the Moon Empress only had 3 years left to live, finally spoke up. I happen to have some friendly relations with the Azure Wing Tiger clan, one of the Azure Federation's 12 Azure clans. When Bamboo Monarch goes out to search for spiritual materials that can increase one's lifespan, I'll make a trip to the Azure Federation. The Azure Wing Tiger clan must have some Azure Wing Tiger blood essence. The Azure Wing Tiger blood essence has the effect of increasing one's lifespan. Take a drop of the Azure Wing Tiger's blood essence every day for a year. It should be able to extend your lifespan by 3 months. However, after taking it for a year, the Azure Wing Tiger's blood essence will lose its effect. I'll have to think of another way. Hearing Chef Supreme's words, Mystic Moon couldn't help but ask, The Moon Empress had said that she would only come out of seclusion before the Radiance 100 sequence. During this period of time, she couldn't possibly toss all the sovereigns out just because she had to guard the news, right? Chapter 1372. These highnesses had been working hard for the Moon Empress, and she would inevitably owe them favors. It was not easy to return favors from highnesses. Just as Mystic Moon was thinking of ways to stabilize these highnesses without revealing the Moon Empress situation, Iron Prison, who was sitting beside Cicada Cry, stood up and said, "In another month, it will be the Radiance 100 sequence selection. In another month, it will be the Radiance 100 sequence selection. In less than a month, the Azure Federation's envoys and the Freedom Federation's envoys will arrive in Radiance. It's not suitable for all of you to go out at this time. The sea race's matter has not been resolved. The Imperial Mermaids have publicly acknowledged that they tore up the Radiance Sea Treaty and trampled on Radiance's dignity. I propose to completely eliminate the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids." Mystic Moon had never liked Iron Prison, but he felt that his words were very pleasing to the ear. If the other highnesses listened to Cicada Cry, they would stay in Radiance before the Radiance 100 sequence. Once the Moon Empress came out of seclusion, this matter would be easily resolved. As soon as Iron Prison finished speaking, Cicada Cry could not help but rub his temples and think to himself. The logic was right, but he definitely could not say it like that. Iron Prison was really a blockhead to actually do something that offended others. The atmosphere was so depressing now, and if Iron Prison said this, wouldn't he become the punching bag for others? Fortunately, Ji Changdeng was not around. If Ji Changdeng was here, he would probably start a fight with Iron Prison. Sure enough, as soon as Iron Prison finished speaking, Night Leaning Moon slammed her hand on the table and said, "Why do all the highnesses need to be present for the Radiance 100 sequence selection and 2 Federation envoys? I will hand over all the Spirit Guards matters to my left and right officials to handle. Tomorrow, I will head to the Radiance Moon Palace to stay. When Sighing Moon comes out of seclusion, ask her about her situation, and I will bring her out to look for opportunities." Mystic Moon was a little unhappy when he heard Night Leaning Moon's words. The Moon Empress is in seclusion. Who allowed you to stay in the Radiance Moon Palace? At the same time, Night Leaning Moon's words made Mystic Moon heave a sigh of relief. If Night Leaning Moon could stay in the Radiance Moon Palace until the Moon Empress came out of seclusion, it would be equivalent to stabilizing the most troublesome Night Leaning Moon. Before Mystic Moon could heave a sigh of relief, the Bamboo Monarch spoke again. "The new leaves of my Golden Silk Emperor Bamboo have the effect of increasing one's lifespan. I can use the young leaves of the Golden Silk Emperor Bamboo to make a spirit liquid with the heart of the bamboo. Before I leave, I will pass the concocted spirit liquid to Xianyu. The spirit liquid concocted from the Golden Thread Emperor Bamboo's bamboo leaves and bamboo heart can only be consumed 6 times by the Moon Empress before it becomes ineffective. 6 times should be able to increase the Moon Empress lifespan by at least 3 months. In addition to the Azure Wing Tiger's blood essence that Chef Supreme obtained from the Azure Federation, the Moon Empress can be assured for at least 4.5 years. Bamboo Monarch's words made Tian Feng frown. Fu Wenju, your Class 5 Creation Master Dao is on the Golden Silk Emperor Bamboo. It is fine if you took the Golden Silk Emperor Bamboo's bamboo leaves, but if you took the bamboo core and damaged the Golden Silk Emperor Bamboo's roots, wouldn't your Creation Master's standard drop to the pinnacle of Class 4? Bamboo Monarch said firmly when he heard Tian Feng's words. I owe the Moon Empress a favor, even if I use my life to repay it. The Moon Empress saving Xianxia is equivalent to saving my life. After speaking, Bamboo Monarch didn't say anything else. Bamboo Monarch's words made Tian Feng speechless for a moment. As a majesty, Bamboo Monarch understood the significance of a Class 5 Creation Master to the Radiance Federation. However, Bamboo Monarch didn't choose righteousness when it came to the Moon Empress lifespan. Instead, he chose personal relationships. It was just like how Bamboo Monarch chose Wang Fuxiang. After hearing Bamboo Monarch's words, Iron Prison stood up and ignored Cicada Ming, who was pulling his sleeve. He said coldly, Bamboo Monarch, you really disappoint me. Be it the previous time or this time, you are very disqualified as a majesty. Forget it. My desolate bloodline Fae, the infernal turtle, attained eternity not long ago and obtained an exclusive skill, Turtle Life Judgment. Turtle Life Judgment can transfer my lifespan to others in a converted manner. I will use my lifespan to exchange for you to stay in the Radiance Federation and for Bamboo Monarch to become a Class 5 Creation Master. After converting my lifespan, the Moon Empress can live for at least another 100 years. As long as I don't die, the Moon Empress can always live. After speaking under everyone's gaze, Iron Prison sat back on his chair and tilted his head to look at Cicada Ming. Iron Prison's eyebrows, which were more than twice as thick as an ordinary person's, raised slightly as though he was asking Cicada Ming, "Why did you pull me just now?" Night Leaning Moon, Chef Supreme, Bamboo Monarch, Tian Feng, and the others looked at Iron Prison with a layer of respect. Iron Prison wasn't like Ji Changdeng, who loved the Moon Empress deeply and was her bootlicker. Iron Prison and the Moon Empress were always at odds, or rather, Iron Prison didn't get along with any majesty during the Great Night Assembly. Iron Prison would only stick to his own thoughts and was very stubborn. This made many majesties have opinions about Iron Prison. It could be said that Iron Prison's relationship with others was the worst among all the majesties. But now, Bamboo Monarch, Chef Supreme, Night Leaning Moon, Tian Feng, and the others suddenly understood Iron Prison's heart. Iron Prison had just said that Bamboo Monarch was somewhat disqualified. Perhaps, Iron Prison had always been in the proper category. Compared to Iron Prison, they were indeed not that competent. Xianyu took a deep look at Taiyu. Her opinion of Taiyu had completely disappeared. Mystic Moon even had a good impression of Iron Prison. If Lin Yuan's longevity rat hadn't solved the Moon Empress predicament, perhaps Iron Prison would have been the Moon Empress' path of redemption. Iron Prison's desolate bloodline Fae had judged that the Flaming Tortoise's strength had reached the Eternal Realm. Even Class 5 Creation Masters couldn't see through the Eternal Fae's exclusive skill. If Iron Prison didn't say it, it would be a secret that would never be known by outsiders. However, Iron Prison had revealed the Flaming Tortoise's exclusive skill for the so-called proper. Iron Prison's method was equivalent to using his own lifespan to exchange for the Moon Empress's lifespan. At this moment, Mystic Moon felt that Iron Prison was rather great. This greatness had nothing to do with strength, but Iron Prison's body had a radiance that Mystic Moon couldn't ignore. Just as everyone was immersed in their own thoughts, Iron Prison stood up and fired at Night Leaning Moon again. I have been talking about the Moon Empress lifespan problem. Now, the problem has been solved. I want to mention that Night Leaning Moon made a move against the Imperial Mermaid race. In my opinion, she was too impulsive. I don't object to making a move against the Imperial Mermaid race, but before making a move, she should have at least discussed it in the Imperial Court Assembly. If the three of us had made a move together and summoned a celestial phenomenon to fight against the Imperial Mermaid race, the result would have been completely different. As long as we can severely injure the Imperial Mermaid race and kill most of their members, the Imperial Mermaid race will no longer be able to bring benefits to the Freedom Federation. The Freedom Federation's Du Miao wouldn't have intervened and summoned the sacred source life form, Boiling Platycodon. Iron Prison was still so radical that Cicada Cry couldn't help but shake his head. Chapter 1373. This Iron Prison had just done something that left Night Leaning Moon with a good impression and even caused her to feel deep respect for him. He immediately began to stir up trouble again. Shooting at Night Leaning Moon at this time, wasn't he just waiting to quarrel with her? Moreover, Iron Prison had thought of things too simply. Just as Cicada Cry was about to change the topic and give Iron Prison and Night Leaning Moon a way out, Night Leaning Moon stood up and bowed towards the Iron Prison as she spoke. Iron Prison, I, Night Leaning Moon, owe you a favor today. Whatever you want me to do in the future, just tell me. After Night Leaning Moon said these words to Iron Prison, her tone immediately changed. He slammed his hand on the table and said, Do you think I don't have the ability to kill the members of the Imperial Mermaid clan under the protection of UAO, the leader of the Imperial Mermaid clan? My sacred source life form, the Dark Sky Prajna, is indeed my first contracted sacred source life form, but my second contracted sacred source life form, the Resurrection Lily Flower, is the strongest phenomenon I can currently conjure. You know how powerful the combination of the Dark Sky Prajna and the Permitha Scholar Flower is. I didn't use the sacred source life form, the Permitha Flower, to kill the members of the Imperial Mermaid clan because I wanted to spare their lives. When the 8 clans of Ocean Empire gather in Radiance, we will resolve the Radiance Sea Treaty. Iron Prison, you should know that if I kill most of the members of the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids clan, we won't be in the right position in the negotiation. It's very likely that this will incite the Sea Folk to unite against a common enemy. Iron Prison, Night Leaning Moon, have been in charge of the spirit guards for decades as Her Holiness Hui Yao. The entire Imperial Court meeting ended in Mystic Moon's dizziness. After stepping out of the Radiance Royal Court, Mystic Moon heaved a sigh of relief. He told the other majesties about what he had learned from Lin Yuan during the Imperial Court Council. It also stabilized the other High Holiness and allowed them to wait for the Moon Empress to come out of seclusion. He hadn't messed up either of those things. However, after the entire Imperial Court meeting, Mystic Moon made a decision in her heart. That was to never participate in the Imperial Court Council ever again. This was simply too brain-burning. Lin Yuan, who had been staying in the mansion for the past 2 days, had returned to his previous state of bursting with energy. During these 2 days, Lin Yuan had basically spent all his time nurturing the steel barbed iron shells. Since he had reached an agreement with the Stormy Wave City, he naturally had to prepare the spiky iron clam that he would hand over to Wang Su in the future. Lin Yuan, who had been working hard for 2 consecutive days, was not as exhausted as before. After consuming the geocentric jade milk, his body had transformed. Lin Yuan realized that he would no longer feel particularly tired even if he worked hard. Even when sleeping, he only needed to take a short nap to replenish his vitality. Sun Ningxiang had mailed a Diamond Fei storage box to him yesterday. This Diamond Fei storage box contained plenty of Law Origin crystals. Lin Yuan counted at least 4,000 of them. After obtaining the Diamond Fei storage box, Lin Yuan called Sun Ningxiang. He knew that this was something Sun Ningxiang had specially prepared for him, but she had forgotten to give it to him when she left. When he had traded high-quality bronze phase with Sun Ningxiang, he had earned hundreds of Law Origin crystals from her. In addition to the more than 4,000 that Sun Ningxiang had given him, the Du Immortal Garden's Law Origin crystals reserve was less than 5,000. This was far from the Coiling Dragon Valley's Law Origin crystals reserve. The Coiling Dragon Valley had taken out more than 10,000 Law Origin crystals without batting an eyelid. It seemed that there was often a huge gap between the top factions in a certain specific material reserve. About 5,000 Law Origin crystals were nothing to the current Lin Yuan. However, this allowed Lin Yuan to understand Sun Ningxiang's intentions. He knew that she had been thinking about what he needed. Long Tao and Li Xian had called Lin Yuan for the past 2 days. After discussing with Lin Yuan, Long Tao and Lin Yuan decided to set up a faction called the Dragon Tomb. Its main function was to sell the spiritual materials on dragon species phase. As the Coiling Dragon Valley's young family head, it was easy for Long Tao to get the 6 eggs of the hook-toothed behemoth dragon from the family. Not to mention, after knowing that Long Tao and Lin Yuan were going to set up a new faction together, the Coiling Dragon Valley's upper echelons all raised their hands and feet in approval. However, the hook-toothed behemoth dragon's eggs were related to the nurturing of the new faction's initial breeding dragons. Lin Yuan asked Long Tao to send the 6 hook-toothed behemoth dragon eggs to him. Lin Yuan naturally did not want these hook-toothed behemoth dragon eggs to see what they looked like. Instead, he wanted to hatch these hook-toothed behemoth dragons and enhance them. Lin Yuan took half a day to inject a large amount of pure spirit qi into these 6 hook-toothed behemoth dragons' eggs to speed up their hatching. After these hook-toothed behemoth dragons hatched, Lin Yuan upgraded the 3 male and 3 female hook-toothed behemoth dragon infants to Bronze X/Legend. Then, he asked someone to send 6 young dragons to Longtao as breeding dragons. Lin Yuan had already laid a foundation for these 6 hook-toothed behemoth dragons. Longtao would then need to guide these 6 hook-toothed behemoth dragons into estrus to breed offspring. When Longtao received the 6 young hook-toothed behemoth dragons, he did not feel anything at first. However, not long after, Longtao suddenly realized that these 6 little fellows that had been upgraded to bronze were all at legend. Longtao could not help but be dumbfounded for a long time. Longtao sighed in his heart more than once. It was simply too cool to cooperate with Lin Yuan. To be able to nurture 6 bronze/legend phase in such a short time, Longtao's subconscious reaction was that the Moon Empress had helped. Longtao looked at these 6 bronze/legend hook-toothed behemoth dragons and was filled with enthusiasm. With such an excellent foundation, the quality of the offspring produced by the hook-toothed behemoth dragons would certainly not be bad. Through the spirit fluid cultivation to speed up childbirth, Lin Yuan would be able to provide the first batch of dragon livers in a month or 2. The newly established faction, the Dragon Tomb, could also open for business normally. Li Xian easily convinced the clan's elders at the Council of Elders. After all, the elders of Li Yun Avian Domain knew how their faction had risen. This was because Li Xian had stood in that small circle at the Nix assembly and chatted cheerfully with the 4 disciples of His Holiness. This had allowed Li Yun Avian Domain to reach cooperation with many top factions. Even the big cities that had not cooperated with Li Yun Avian Domain before had started to order flying phase from Li Yun Avian Domain. This made Li Yun Avian Domain's elders feel proud when they went out. Even if Lin Yuan wanted to ask for the phoenix blood of the main phoenix species Fei for free, many elders of Li Yun Avian Domain were willing to provide it. Moreover, Lin Yuan had taken out the phoenix nirvana flower to exchange for it. Li Yun Avian Domain's elders were not ranked according to strength. However, the stronger elders were often able to sit at the front of the Elder Council. Chapter 1374. Once he refused to cooperate with Lin Yuan and the other elders agreed to cooperate with Lin Yuan, he would immediately face a passive situation. The other elders had obtained a large number of Phoenix Nirvana flowers through their cooperation with Lin Yuan. If the main Phoenix species phase bloodline kept improving, the corresponding strength would also keep increasing. This would cause the elders who agreed to trade with Lin Yuan to constantly squeeze into the front ranks of the Elders Association. None of the elders who understood this were willing to decline their status in the Elder Council because they refused to cooperate. As long as he had the Phoenix Nirvana flower, he could exchange for the main Phoenix species phase blood from the Dawn Cloud birdcage anytime and anywhere. However, Lin Yuan wasn't in a hurry to obtain the Phoenix blood. After all, if the Golden Wings wanted to increase their strength, they had to eat dragon liver and phoenix blood together. Just having phoenix blood without dragon liver was useless. During these 2 days, Lin Yuan browsed through the star web. He realized that the popularity of the posts regarding the weather changed, the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids tearing up the Radiant Sea Treaty, and the shocking bet between the Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation had decreased significantly. Some people even began to recall the blood oath battle between the Miao family and the Blissful Sea clan in the Beast Creation Garden. Lin Yuan knew that it was about time to use his identity as the Moon Empress disciple to intervene in this matter. The conflict between the Radiance Federation, the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids, and the Freedom Federation wasn't considered as gossip news. There was nothing to discuss. The Star Web netizens would at most discuss how terrifying the astronomical anomaly was. It was precisely this kind of news that caused the popularity of these 3 incidents to drop so quickly. The anomaly in the sky that evening was witnessed by everyone at the same time. Most of the people who usually didn't log onto the Star Web had logged onto the Star Web to understand the situation. These few days were the period with the highest number of Star Web netizens. If he used his identity as the Moon Empress disciple to intervene in the conflict between Sky City and the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden, he would indeed be suppressed by the popularity of those 3 matters. However, this period of time allowed more people to log on to the star web to understand the conflict between Sky City and the Miao family's beast creation garden. Furthermore, he had used his identity as the Moon Empress disciple to intervene in the conflict between the Sky City and the Miao family's beast creation garden. It was a matter of gossip and had a lot of repercussions. Since Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple and also the Sky City Lord, he had to be careful. If Lin Yuan wanted the incident to ferment, he did not need to do anything. He just needed to find a Star Web reporter to publish the article. The Star Web had a rigid requirement for public opinion news. This requirement meant that the news published by the Star Web reporters had to be filled with their own views and could set the pace. However, they had to ensure the authenticity of the news. Therefore, as long as it was news released by Star Web columnists, Star Web netizens would accept it very well. As for which Star Web reporter to look for, Lin Yuan didn't even think before choosing Tian Ningning. As Black's exclusive reporter, Tian Ningning was obviously not suitable to publish a column on this matter. Tian Ningning had recently used Miaohe's connections to build a rather large network of Star Web columnists. Previously, when you needed Star Web reporters to publish news, she had asked Tian Ningning to find them. He planned to tell Tian Ningning about this and ask her to find a suitable Star Web reporter. Such hot exclusive news was enough for a rookie Star Web reporter to become a big shot in the industry. If Tian Ningning wasn't suitable, he could let Tian Ningning give this opportunity to someone else. This way, Tian Ningning could maintain a perfect friendship with a big shot reporter. Through Tian Ningning, he could indirectly let this big shot reporter serve Sky City. Lin Yuan immediately dialed Tian Ningning's number and talked to her about this matter. After hearing what Lin Yuan said on the phone, Tian Ningning went to the Return from Faraway Mansion without another word. After arriving at the Return from Faraway Mansion, Tian Ningning excitedly handed Lin Yuan 3 sets of Star Web reporters' information. She asked Lin Yuan to choose from these 3 Star Web reporters. Lin Yuan took the information and looked at it carefully. He saw that the Star Web reporter in the first set was called Yu Fang, a rookie Star Web reporter. She had just succeeded in her studies and was considered a blank piece of paper without any resume. While Lin Yuan was looking at Yu Fang's information, Tian Ningning introduced Yu Fang's situation to him. Yu Fang was currently interning under Tian Ningning. If he chose Yu Fang, Tian Ningning planned to simply set up a Star Web reporter's office and sign Yu Fang before giving this opportunity to Yu Fang. This could ensure that Yu Fang wouldn't turn hostile after getting the benefits. The Star Web reporter in the second set was called Wang Rui. After looking at Wang Rui's photo, Lin Yuan could be sure that Wang Rui was at least 50 years old. The Star Web reporters at this age had made a name for themselves and became Star Web editors or even chief editors. Those who weren't doing well were generally veterans who wrote their drafts based on their own will and had offended many people. In Tian Ningning's introduction, Wang Rui was indeed such a veteran. The reason why Tian Ningning chose Wang Rui was because he had offended the chief editor. He had been ostracized in Star Web and was facing a state of semi-unemployment. Tian Ningning was confident that she could persuade Wang Rui to join her studio. Lin Yuan had filtered out Wang Rui when comparing Yu Fang and Wang Rui. The Star Web reporter that Lin Yuan was looking for was just a mouthpiece. A mouthpiece that could pass messages was good enough. There was no benefit to Lin Yuan to have a mouthpiece. When Lin Yuan looked at the third set of information, he couldn't help but raise his brows. The woman in the third set of information was about 20 to 30 years old. Her long curly hair was draped to her waist, but it didn't look messy at all. Instead, she looked very capable. The woman had deep eyes and was very charming. Her resume was also excellent, and she had even interviewed Radiant's 100 Sequence members. However, this Star Web reporter had once been banned by a guild club because she had reported on a team from that guild club. This guild club was the Barbarian Snake Guild Club that Lin Yuan had dealt with previously. It was impossible for this Star Web reporter, Zhou Man, to not know that reporting on the Barbarian Snake Guild Club's main team was cruel and suspected of blackmail would result in retaliation from the Barbarian Snake Guild Club. However, Zhou Man still did it despite knowing. This showed that she had a strong sense of justice and conscience. This sense of justice and conscience would drive Zhou Man to disregard danger. When looking at Zhou Man's information, Lin Yuan realized that Tian Ningning had prepared the most detailed information on her. When he was looking at Zhou Man's information, Tian Ningning spoke the most. She also specifically mentioned that Zhou Man was very knowledgeable about public opinion and public relations. Lin Yuan had previously asked Tian Ningning to be the Dong Guild Club's team reporter. It was too difficult for Tian Ningning to have only one team reporter in a guild club. Since Zhou Man was capable, Lin Yuan thought that he might as well let her be Tian Ningning's assistant. As for the Barbarian Snake Guild Club's ban on Zhou Man, it was just a joke in Lin Yuan's opinion. When Tian Ningning had just introduced Zhou Man, she had already expressed her preference for Zhou Man more than once. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.